Chapter 149. That woman's long green robe was torn into a mess. Her long black hair covered her face, and her hands kept flailing about as she angrily shouted, "You dare to touch me? I'll kill you." But her warning and struggle were useless. Following that, a man pounced on the woman. The woman screamed even more miserably. While struggling, she found Yiqing Luo standing by the side as if she saw her savior. "Miss, save me, save me." The man tore the woman's clothes and turned his head to look at Yiqing Luo when he heard the cry for help. That was a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks as he spat viciously. "Little girl, get lost." The woman cried for help immediately. Yiqing Luo frowned as a meaningful smile appeared on her face. Not knowing why, she felt something was wrong. She squinted her eyes and suddenly turned around, as if she didn't see them, and was ready to leave. Behind her, a violent roar came from the man. "Slut!" What followed was the woman's painful cry. "Ah!" The woman took advantage of the time when the man and Yiqing Luo were talking and struggled to escape from the man's side. The man took out a dagger and stabbed it into the woman's leg. That stab made the woman's calf bloody, and the woman's face turned pale in pain as she kept screaming. The man pushed the woman to the ground rudely and pressed on top of her again. The woman screamed and begged Yiqing Luo to save her. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she stopped in her tracks and turned her head. The moment she turned around, she felt a chill on her back. From the corner of her eyes, she caught a glimpse of a dazzling long knife, slashing towards her. Her strong perception made Yiqing Luo instinctively display her footwork. Clang clang. The long knife slashed empty air and made a swishing sound in midair. The person who sneak attacked her from behind was dressed in black with a veil over his face, holding a long knife in his hand. "Killer! You're smart." That killer sneered as he pointed the long knife at Yiqing Luo. "Hand over the things on you and perhaps I can let you live for a few more days." Yiqing Luo's mouth twitched. What the hell? Dressed up like this in broad daylight. Was he afraid that others wouldn't know he was a killer? Things. In this day and age, there were actually people robbing her? When the killer saw that Yiqing Luo had no reaction, he leapt into the air, and the long knife came piercing towards her face. The saber wind exuded an extremely cold air. Yiqing Luo tiptoed lightly and took a step back. She narrowed her eyes and fixed her sight on the killer's chest. There was a black light hovering around the assassin's heart. The Mystic Profound Realm should be around Mystic Profound 3rd grade. A Mystic Profound Realm assassin. The other party really thought highly of her. Yiqing Luo snorted lightly, although the opponent's profound grade was above her. But in terms of overall strength, she might not necessarily lose. If you want to take something from this young matriarch, you have to use something in exchange. Yiqing Luo opened her feather fan and swept it across her pink lips, revealing an enchanting smile. In the next moment, those slightly narrowed eyes suddenly opened. Her pink lips parted slightly, and her voice was sweet as she spat out a few words. "With your life." Her words had just ended when Yiqing Luo's figure swayed. Only a red blur could be seen in the air. Ugh. That killer didn't even have time to put up a defensive posture, and was sent flying. Yiqing Luo slowly retracted her leg, waved her feather fan lightly and smiled incomparably enchanting. "Do you still want it?" Chapter 150. He sneered. Yiqing Luo's lips also curled into a smile. The corners of her eyes rose slightly, outlining a demonic arc. Her fiery pink lips were extremely enchanting. This smile was reflected in the killer's eyes, making him feel as though he was being targeted by the devil from hell. The feather fan on Yiqing Luo's fingertips flew into the air in a flash. The feather fan was like a fire dragon, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it whizzed towards Yiqing Luo's back. The flame was enchanting, colliding with something. Then she heard the sound of a heavy object falling behind her. "Ah! Woo!" Following that, 2 screams were heard at the same time. Yiqing Luo tipped her toes and leaped sideways, landing steadily 5 steps away from the killer. "So many flaws, still trying to trick me?" Yiqing Luo sneered as she spread out her hands. The feather fan made a turn and fell back into her palm. The place where Yiqing Luo was standing was in a triangular terrain. On the left was the killer, who fell on the ground, clutching his chest as he panted heavily. On the right was the man and woman who were tugging at each other, also lying on the ground. How did you know we are together? That woman's face. There was no longer any trace of pain from being taken advantage of, as she asked with a cold face. Because he. Yi-Ching Luo pointed at the man lying on the ground. Her eyes squinted as she gave a charming smile. As a man who was releasing his beast bath, after seeing this young matriarch, he actually berated this young matriarch to leave, which is illogical. That man and woman's brows twitched. Wasn't this lady overly confident of her own looks? Although the monkey-like man wanted to reply in this way, but when he saw the smiling face, charming eyes of the woman, he swallowed his words. What she said seemed to make sense. He couldn't refute. Using such a method to attract my attention, then sneak an attack from behind? Yi-Ching Luo's smile deepened. Unfortunately, this young matriarch has never been a good person. Yi-Ching Luo spread out her fingers. A burst of profound qi condensed on the feather fan. Immediately the feather fan drew out a few small knives which were emitting flames, like scattered flowers in the rain, directly towards the three men. The three people on the ground looked at each other. Simultaneously, they slammed their palms on the ground and soared into the sky. He swiftly avoided the fire blade and attacked Yi-Ching Luo at the same time. The moves and movements of the three were almost exactly the same, like mirrors facing each other, repeating the same movements. Profound qi burst forth from the three of them with irresistible force. Indeed, not an ordinary killer. Yi-Ching Luo laughed lightly. If he could use such a method to attract her attention, he would naturally use a weak method to lower her vigilance. These tricks, Yi-Ching Luo had long been tired of playing them in her past life. Since you've been discovered, don't blame us for giving you a painful death. The expressions of the three assassins turned cold. They leaped up at the same time, and fiercely struck out with their palms. Rumble! The sound of the earth quaking, and the mountains shaking caused the ground to crack. The majestic and terrifying profound qi was like a mountain torrent, burying Yi-Ching Luo in it. A mere low-grade yellow Xian practitioner dares to act impudently in front of us. The assassin snorted disdainfully. The number of people in the world who could escape from the combined attack of the three of them could be counted on one hand. There's nothing left of her. Go and find the ring on her finger. The assassin looked at the woman. The woman revealed some displeasure. She's already exploded into pieces. You want me to find a ring? His lordship instructed. We must bring that ring back. Chapter 151. Ring. A clear and melodious voice came from behind them. The three of them were aghast as they looked back immediately, only to see Yi-Ching Luo's red dress fluttering amidst the flying sand and gravel. Her skirt swayed along with the strong airwaves, like a dazzling fire lotus, standing on the fire. After the airwaves dissipated, Yi-Ching Luo's breathtaking face appeared in front of them. Yi-Ching Luo. She was not dead yet. The three killers' faces changed drastically. They had not expected Yi-Ching Luo's strength to be so strong, to be able to avoid their combined palm strike. Who is the lord you are talking about? Why do you want my ring? Yi-Ching Luo walked slowly towards them. The three of them were aghast as they stared at her vigilantly, and subconsciously moved back. Obviously, there was no fluctuation of profound qi on Yi-Ching Luo. It was obvious that Yi-Ching Luo's profound grade was below theirs. But the trio's fear and terror towards Yi-Ching Luo drove their body's instincts to avoid her. Not willing to say? Yi-Ching Luo snorted. Her feather fan pressed against her pink lips as she smiled enchantingly. Since the three of you are unwilling to cooperate, then there's no point in keeping you here. Her words had just ended when the feather fan on her fingertips flew out ferociously. Like a raging flame, it engulfed everything it passed through. In the blink of an eye, it had arrived in front of the three killers. The red flame condensed profound qi, enveloping the three of them tightly. Good fellow, young matriarchy is indeed powerful. The killer looked at Yi-Ching Luo coldly, and immediately retracted his gaze, exchanging glances with the other two beside him. Immediately, the three of them used their hands and feet to condense their profound qi once again, and struck out a palm strike that could collapse the mountains and crack the earth. This palm strike was even more imposing than the previous one. Yi Qing Luo's expression changed slightly as her brows knitted slightly. Her profound grade, under the combined force of the three of them, would be reduced to slag in seconds. These three people's profound qi was oppressive. Even with her set of footwork, she could not avoid it safely. Just now she was able to avoid that palm strike, because she had been painstakingly studying the blink movement for the past few days. Seeing the profound qi blasting towards her, Yi Qing Luo concentrated and held her breath. His figure suddenly turned into a red afterimage and disappeared. Boom, boom, boom. A thunderous sound reverberated as that palm wind struck the spot where Yi Qing Luo was standing at earlier. The ground cracked open, and the violent profound energy stacked up layer by layer. For a moment, the entire street was engulfed in billowing dust. The next time Yi Qing Luo appeared, she was already at the end of the alley. Facing her, the raging wind was still howling, fluttering Yi Qing Luo's long hair, fluttering her elegant long dress. When the smoke dissipated, the three assassins were nowhere to be seen except for the rubble in front of them. Ran away. Yi Qing Luo's brows creased as her gaze immediately sensed the surroundings vigilantly. Pa pa pa. Ding ling. Pa pa pa. Ding ling. Right at this moment, a crisp sound of a slap resounded. Yi Qing Luo was in a state of alertness when she was shocked by the sudden noise as her feather fan was instantly pinched on her fingertips. At the corner of the street, a petite figure was walking over. That was a young lady who looked like she was carved out of jade. Her height was estimated to be 1.4 meters. Yi Qing Luo's body in this other world was just right for her height. And this young lady, standing in front of her, was actually shorter than her by a full head. She was dressed in a seemingly shabby pink long dress. The edge of the skirt hung a few strands of fluffy little balls, which made the young lady incomparably cute. Chapter 152. This appearance was a living Lolita, but the young lady's pair of indifferent and cold eyes were extremely inconsistent with her appearance. That was a pair of noble, arrogant eyes. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes as she examined the young lady in front of her, secretly guessing if she was a friend or foe. But in a blink of an eye, that young lady's eyes had lost all its brilliance as she lowered her eyelids, and the applause in her hands stopped abruptly. This change, the change in that pair of eyes, it really aroused one's interest. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up as she hid away the defensive expression on her face. Little lass, how long have you been watching the show? Those three people are Godless Island's three evils. The young lady's voice was soft, and it was an extremely pure baby's voice. This kind of voice coupled with this appearance, Yi Qing Luo almost suspected that the chilly indifference she saw in the young lady's eyes earlier was it a misconception. Stabilizing her thoughts, Yi Qing Luo sized her up. Godless Island? Three evils? Godless Island. She had heard of it before. Nirvana Realm's #1 evil force, #1 island. It was rumored that it was comparable to the Imperial Palace's evil force. Three evils. What the hell was that? The young lady opened her mouth at the right time. Those are the three loyal little dogs raised by the Godless Island's island lord. They are triplets and have extremely strong telepathy. I have only seen one person who can deal with the three of them at the same time. Triplets? What a joke. Those three people, no matter how she looked, they didn't look like triplets. No one knows what the three evils look like. Other than killing, their disguise skills are the best. The young lady saw the astonishment in Yi Qing Luo's eyes as she raised her brows and continued. Disguise skills. That's right. If they were Godless Island's killers, they would not make such a low-level mistake. That pair of man and woman who were tugging and pulling in front of her were definitely in disguise. Why would Godless Island's people look for me? Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly as she lowered her eyes and stared at the ring on her ring finger. The young lady spread out her hands and shrugged. Didn't the three evils say it was because of the ring in your hand? The blood-colored jade ring was faintly leaping with a ball of flowing subtle fire. This ring was given to her by Dmo Xian. Why? Did the island lord of Godless Island want Dmo Xian's ring? Could it be that the profound phoenix ring was hiding some sort of secret? Yi Qing Luo's brows creased tightly, and just as she was about to sink into deep thoughts, she suddenly discovered that the Lolita young lady was still in front of her. Why do you know so much about the Godless Island? Compared to the Imperial Palace, the Godless Island was even more mysterious. There were very few people who could accurately recognize the disguised Wu San Sha as Wu San Sha, and confirm that the three of them were from Godless Island. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed. The corners of her long and narrow eyes rose slightly, as her lips curled into a smile, which didn't look like a smile. You are from the Godless Island? Pausing, Yi Qing Luo's tone rose slightly, her sweet voice added a few hints of enchanting. Or, you want me to target Godless Island? The girl blinked her lifeless eyes. She tilted her head, her slightly curly hair covering half of her face. Although she was expressionless, her appearance was still adorable and touching. She seemed to be unable to understand the meaning behind Yi Qing Luo's words. Yi Qing Luo sneered. The devilish glint in her eyes suddenly stopped. The feather fan in her hands was like a blazing rainbow, striking towards the young lady's face. Chapter 153. The young girl stood there in a daze, and did not evade. There was no fluctuation of profound qi around her. Yi Qing Luo's brows knitted tightly, as she squinted her eyes, and stared deeply at the young girl's chest. There was no trace of profound jade heart glow at all. Could it be? This little Lolita was an ordinary person? But that pair of cold and indifferent eyes of little Lolita could not be erased from her mind. Just as that flame was just a little distance away from the young girl. The young girl's head moved slightly as she spat out a sentence without any expression. Coming. Just as her voice fell, without waiting for Yi Qing Luo to ponder what was the meaning of this coming. She heard a low roar from the other end of the street. Who dares to create trouble in the Heavenly Academy? Immediately, Yi Qing Luo felt a strong profound qi fluctuation coming from the direction of the sound. How did little Lolita know that the people from the Heavenly Academy were here? Yi Qing Luo retracted her gaze from the street and looked at little Lolita again. There was no one in front of her. Yi Qing Luo's expression changed. That little Lolita was indeed not an ordinary person. She could actually disappear under her eyelids. Why couldn't she see little Lolita's profound jade heart? Yi Qing Luo had no time to think about these questions. Those masters from the Heavenly Academy had already led a group of guards to the street. The leading master was one of the 3 judges who sat on the main stage during the ability assessment. The moment he saw Yi Qing Luo and saw the mess on the ground, his grizzled brows wrinkled into a ball. Yi, 7th Miss Yi, what's going on? The master's face revealed a difficult expression. Originally he still had a proud look, but now he had to show a smiling face to Yi Qing Luo. They were in high spirits at the front door of the Heavenly Academy, welcoming the new students. Immediately they heard the guard report that there was a profound qi fluctuation at the back door of the Heavenly Academy. Moreover, the profound grade was not a match, and the destructive power was also very strong. The master thought that it was another school, who specially came to create trouble on the day of the new students' admission. With that, he led the guards and rushed over in a threatening manner. But why was there only Yi Qing Luo alone in the mess, and among the flying sand and gravel? Could it be that powerful profound qi fluctuation was released by Yi Qing Luo? There were too many people, and I accidentally lost my way. Coincidentally, I met some people who wanted to sneak into the Heavenly Academy from the back door. So I taught them a lesson. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes and lied with a straight face. Then he shook his head helplessly and sighed. But the other party's profound rank is above mine. It's a pity to let them escape. Hearing this, the headmaster's face suddenly changed. Who is it? As for the person, I'm not sure. Yi Qing Luo's eyes revealed a crafty look as she lowered her voice and chuckled. But there was a student from the Heavenly Academy present at that time, and she seemed to recognize those people. Who are they? The headmaster frowned. He was even more certain that those people were sent by other schools. Every year, when they recruited new students, the various academies would rack their brains to recruit new students. They wished that they could take all the geniuses for themselves, so that they could become the best academy. As the best academy that had stood strong for many years, It naturally became a thorn in the eyes of the other academies. Those people actually knew the students of the Heavenly Academy? Could it be there was a traitor? Chapter 154. Yi-Ching Luo briefly described the little Lolita's appearance. She believed that it would be a piece of cake for the master to find such a unique little Lolita. Yi-Ching Luo restrained the teasing smile on her lips and smiled. I shall not disturb the master's protection of the academy. I have not registered yet, so I'll head over first. She had said that she was not a good person, since the little Lolita wanted to play mysterious with her. If she did not fight back, was she still human? It would be a piece of cake for her to find the little Lolita, with the help of a famous master in the Heavenly Academy. She didn't need to be mysterious. She just needed to wait for the little Lolita to take the bait. After listening to Yi-Ching Luo's description, a strange look appeared on the master's face. When he heard that she had not registered yet, he nodded repeatedly. When Yi-Ching Luo was about to leave, the master called her again. This is the first time old man Gui Yu accepted a disciple. He has been pacing back and forth nervously in the courtyard since early morning. If 7th Miss is free, please bring 8th young master over to have a look. Yi-Ching Luo smiled and bowed slightly to the master. Thank you for your reminder. I will bring Xiao Yu over after the registration. Seeing that Yi-Ching Luo finally smiled, the master heaved a sigh of relief. There are too many arrays around the Heavenly Academy. If 7th Miss can't find the registration place, let the guards send you there, lest you break into the array and harm your safety. Yi-Ching Luo was worried about not knowing the way, and naturally nodded when she heard this decision. Wow! Heavens! I can actually see the Mu brothers at the registration time. One of the students screamed in disbelief. Don't tell me the Mu brothers have relatives enrolled in the school? It was said that the Mu brothers would only appear in the academy during the high profound class. But this time, not only did they appear during the ability assessment, but also. Speaking of which, I remember now, during the ability assessment, the Mu brothers seemed to be the only one who went to the challenge between the Yi 7th Miss and the Yi 4th Miss. Yi-Ching Luo looked towards the direction of the crowd, and indeed saw the Mu brothers, like a celebrity meeting, struggling to move forward in the crowd. Especially when she saw the bitter look on Mu Zifei's face, and the sullen expression in his eyes. Yi-Ching Luo couldn't help but laugh out loud. 7th Miss, and the 2 young masters of the Mu family. Guard Yi noticed Yi-Ching Luo's line of sight, and asked out of curiosity. After asking, he stopped abruptly and changed the topic. The 2 young masters of the Mu family are students from the high profound class. After 7th Miss has registered, I will help you to memorize the route to the high profound class. After that, the guard scratched his head. That's not right. Miss 7 is the young master of the Three Springs sect, and the disciple of the Overlord. I don't think anyone in the academy would dare to bully Miss 7. Yi-Ching Luo smiled without saying a word. The 2 of them, one in front and one behind, passed through the crowd, and were about to reach the registration area. Another wave of clamor was heard, followed by exclamations from all around. It's the Yuchi clan's 3rd young master. I heard that 3rd young master Yuchi is the first new student to be admitted into the academy. Yuchi. Hearing this surname, Yi-Ching Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she looked over. She saw a figure approaching from afar at an extremely fast speed. That person was sitting on the back of a giant leopard, dressed in a smoky brocade robe. The collar extended to the sleeves, and was embroidered with gold. Chapter 155. The 3rd young master of the Yuchi family, Yuchi-E. That giant leopard was at least a high-level magical beast. To be able to ride on a magical beast to report was enough to prove how strong he was. Especially that leopard. It was ferocious, and was not to be trifled with. It was indeed the style of the Yuchi family to appear in such a domineering manner. Yi-Ching Luo sneered, and withdrew her gaze. She had no interest in Yuchi-E. That guard had been wondering if he had said something wrong. At this moment, when he heard Yi-Ching Luo's laughter, and saw her staring at Yuchi-E, he hurriedly said, That is the 3rd young master of the Yuchi family, one of the 4 great families in the West Continent. For this year's enrollment, 3 of the 4 major families have sent their children over, and they have all passed the assessment. If there are no accidents, they should be entering the high profound class. 3 families' children were admitted into the Heavenly Academy. It was no wonder that the master was worried that people from other schools would come over to make trouble. Yiqing Luo nodded lightly. Don't bother about insignificant people. After that, she turned to the registration counter and took the registration form. Seeing that she was filling in the form, the guard touched his nose and kept quiet. After filling in the form, Yiqing Luo took out 200 gold coins from the profound phoenix ring and handed it over together with the registration form. The procedure was very simple. In less than half an hour, the master handed over a wooden token, a badge and a piece of paper with black and white characters. The wooden token was the size of a palm and felt very good. You could vaguely feel the surge of spiritual qi from the wooden token. It should be made from a good spiritual tree. As for the badge, it was gray and dull without any luster or pattern. Looking at the paper, it was the receipt of the school uniform. Yiqing Luo kept them all, and immediately took out another bag of gold coins. She smiled and said, "Master, I got separated from my brother. The registration fee is with me. If he comes to register later, please inform him for me." She said Yi Fengyu's name, and handed over the gold coins. Yiqing Luo became famous in the ability assessment, and had a close relationship with the overlord. The master recognized her at a glance. "I'm so busy that I'm confused." Just now, 8th young Master Yi had paid the registration fee and entered the school. He specifically instructed me to inform 7th Miss when I see her. Paid the registration fee? Yi Fengyu had so many gold coins on him? Could it be? In Yiqing Luo's mind, an image of a man dressed in purple suddenly appeared. Dmo Xian? At once, Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red. She shook her head and thanked him. After the guard sent Yiqing Luo into the academy, he then left. Before he left, he also gave Yiqing Luo a handbook of the Heavenly Academy, saying that this was a gift from the master to her. In this handbook, there were many records of the Heavenly Academy's glorious history, the Academy's rules and moral ideals. The last few pages had some simple introductions about the Heavenly Academy. It was said that there were no more than 100 copies of this manual in the entire academy. Those who had the handbook were either from powerful families or powerful individuals. They were all people that the headmaster of the academy wanted to nurture. From the handbook, Yiqing Luo also understood that the wooden token given to her by the master was the proof to enter and exit the school, which was equivalent to a student ID. The wooden plaque contained all the information of the student. Even the changes in the profound grade were recorded clearly. This was also convenient for the teachers of the academy to understand the abilities and aptitudes of each student. And that badge was like the horizontal bar on the shoulder of the master. It was a symbol of status. The badges of freshmen were all dusty. Only after the class was allocated and the class guide opened it, the badge would show the class that the freshmen were in. Chapter 156. Yiqing Luo touched the badge on her chest. She still had no idea what class she was in. Probably high profound class. Although her profound grade was not high enough to enter the high profound class, but high profound class should be without a doubt. High profound class. There were quite a few acquaintances there. In the Heavenly Academy, she might not be able to settle down and just go to school. Yiqing Luo collected her thoughts and kept the school's handbook. She injected profound qi into the wooden token, according to the handbook's instructions. The wooden tablet flashed slightly, and a row of golden words appeared on it. Name: Yiqing Luo. Gender: female. Age: 15. Profound grade: yellow. Profound 9th grade. Identity: young matriarch of 3 Springs sect, Yi family's 7th Missy. Yiqing Luo's finger rubbed the top and in a flash, the location of her dormitory appeared. Following the display, Yiqing Luo arrived at the dormitory, and there was no one inside. No wonder it was the best academy. The environment of the dormitory was excellent, even better than her courtyard in the Yi family. Yiqing Luo looked through the rooms one by one. There were a total of 4 rooms. The layout and decoration of each room were exactly the same. Perhaps it was the women's room. There were a few strings of shell-shaped wind chimes hanging on the wall of each room. Each room also had a window. A mahogany square table was placed next to the window with a bouquet of gorgeous blue flowers. Ow ow! Chi-Chi's white fluffy little body sprang out from Yi-Ching Luo's shoulder and let out a low moan. Chi-Chi. Yi-Ching Luo was overjoyed and rubbed Chi-Chi's little head. Have you rested well? Chi-Chi let out a cry and rubbed its head against Yi-Ching Luo's palm. Its pair of tiger eyes had turned into a curved line from smiling. Yi-Ching Luo chuckled softly. Her eyes were filled with gentleness. Other than the things the academy had prepared, the 4 rooms were empty. Obviously, the other roommates had not been to the dormitory yet. Yi-Ching Luo randomly chose a room and walked in. Her belongings were with Yi Fengyu. She could only wait until the master held the freshman assembly tonight to meet him and get her belongings back. The room had been cleaned by professional people. It was spotless and free of dust. Yi-Ching Luo laid directly on the bed and hugged Chi-Chi on her abdomen, her fingers caressing its head. For the next few days, we're going to be busy, so we'll have to trouble you. Chi-Chi nodded. Towards Chi-Chi, Yi-Ching Luo's heart was filled with guilt. From Old Man's Song, Yi-Ching Luo found out that the contract between Chi-Chi and her was a blood pact, which meant that Chi-Chi would forever be her battle pet for all eternity. The blood contract was enough to prove Chi-Chi's loyalty, but the biggest drawback was Chi-Chi's strength would also be suppressed, because Yi-Ching Luo's profound grade was too low. After forming a contract with Chi-Chi, Chi-Chi spent most of its time sleeping in the pet beast space. For pet beasts, sleep was a catalyst for growth and evolution. As one of the 4 ancient saint beasts, Chi-Chi's strength was suppressed to 0 in an instant. This was extremely damaging to the beast's body. Even though Chi-Chi knew the consequences, she still chose to form a contract with her without hesitation. This made Yi-Ching Luo even more touched. She secretly swore in her heart that she would find her profound jade heart as soon as possible and work hard to improve her strength and raise her profound grade. Awoodawa, as if it sensed its master's thoughts. Chi-Chi's little paws moved towards Yi-Ching Luo, and its little head rubbed against her. At this moment, the dormitory room's door was opened. Chapter 157. Yi-Ching Luo frowned slightly. Living with such a barbaric roommate, it would be difficult for him to have a peaceful life in the future. She heard the sound of the door being slammed shut, and that pampered girl walked briskly into the dormitory. Yi-Ching Luo could hear the girl's footsteps. It seemed that she was checking the rooms one by one. She could vaguely hear the girl grumbling in a low voice. What kind of lousy place is this? Not even half as good as home. Father really has the heart to send me here to suffer. She could hear that this was a spoiled brat. After a while, the brat opened the door to Yi-Ching Luo's room. Seeing that someone was lying on the bed, her expression changed immediately, pointing at Yi-Ching Luo and cursing. Hey, who do you think you are? How dare you? I haven't chosen a room yet, and you've already occupied it. The pampered and willful brat thought that no matter where she went, she was not afraid of anything. Seeing that Yi-Ching Luo was lying motionless, the brat flew into a rage and strode forward, stretching out her hand to grab Yi-Ching Luo. I want this room. Get out of here. She had just moved into the dormitory and met a lunatic. It had nothing to do with her if the lunatic provoked others. However, this lunatic had to provoke her. Yi-Ching Luo's face sank, her charming eyes narrowed coldly. Get out of here. Just as the brat's hand was about to grab Yi-Ching Luo, her wrist was held tightly by Yi-Ching Luo. 5 fingers exerted a little force, only to hear the sound of bones breaking. The brat cried out in pain, clutching her wrist and staggered back. You, how dare you lay your hands on me? Do you know that I am one of the 4 great families? Shangguan family's 5th Miss Shangguan Luli. Shangguan Luli's wrist was in severe pain. The girl who had never suffered the slightest grievance at home couldn't stop her tears from flowing out. Yi-Ching Luo sneered and slowly sat up straight. Chi-Chi's small body nimbly jumped onto Yi-Ching Luo's shoulder, poked out her little head, and stared at Shangguan Luli fiercely. Shangguan? The miss of the Shangguan family, is this all you can do? Hearing Yi Qing Luo's ridicule, Shangguan Luli's tears flowed even more violently. She stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo, especially when she saw that sweet and enchanting face of Yi Qing Luo. Her heart was filled with jealousy. His vision fell onto the little fur ball on Yi Qing Luo's shoulder. Chi-Chi's ferocious look was not fierce at all, when paired with this furry white cat's appearance. On the contrary, it was adorable. As soon as Shangguan Liuli saw this cute little thing, her eyes immediately couldn't move away. She rubbed her wrist and stared at Chi-Chi, putting on an expression, as if she was bestowing a gift. Give me the kitten on your shoulder, and I'll let you have this room. I won't hold it against you for hurting me. Miss, which eye of yours saw that I didn't want to be calculative with you? Yi Qing Luo's eyes twitched. This brat was rather similar to Lung Fenghua. Both of them were living in their own world. Scram. Yi Qing Luo leaned back against the headboard and spat out a word coldly. Her knees bent slightly, one hand rested on her knee and closed her eyes. She didn't even bother to look at Shangguan Luli. Chapter 158. Shangguan Liuli gritted her teeth in hatred and wanted to rush up to teach Yi Qing Luo a lesson. But when she thought of how Yi Qing Luo broke her hand without hesitation, she didn't dare to act rashly. When had a spoiled and arrogant girl ever been bullied like this? Looking at Yi Qing Luo's indifferent and arrogant look, Shangguan Liuli felt even more wronged and angry. A pair of hazy, tearful eyes burned with a fiery light. Just you wait. Don't think that you don't have to worry about my identity in the academy. Not to mention outside the academy, I have 100 ways to torture you to death. Even in the academy, I can still make you wish you were dead. Yi Qing Luo suddenly opened her eyes, a pair of charming eyes, suffused with a cold chill. Just one look and Shangguan Liuli was scared to take a few steps back. Shangguan Liuli's face was full of shame and anger. The dignified fifth miss of Shangguan was actually scared to this look by a little slut. If this was spread out, how was she going to mix around? You wait for me. My brother is a student of the high profound class. After saying that, Shangguan Liuli wiped her tears and ran out. She happened to bump into the woman who opened the dormitory door and walked in. The woman's figure was petite and dressed in pink. Shangguan Liuli was still angry and didn't dare to vent her anger on Yi Qing Luo. Now that she had a punching bag, it was also to prove that her identity was strong. Without any explanation, a slap landed on the face of the woman who bumped into her. "Moing you, didn't I say, don't even think of stepping into this dormitory today? How dare you defy my orders?" The woman fell to the ground from the slap. Her small hands, supported on the ground, slightly curled up long hair, covered half of the woman's face. However, his pair of gloomy and lifeless eyes were so calm that it was terrifying. After being slapped, the woman didn't get angry, didn't cry, and didn't make a fuss. She just quietly and silently tried to get up. However, her forbearance greatly agitated Shangguan Liuli. Shangguan Liuli stepped on the woman's pink sleeve with one foot and kicked hard with the other. "Who allowed you to get up? Crawl out of here." The woman was kicked again. However, the expression on his face did not change. There wasn't even pain or a frown on his face. She didn't move and just lay on the ground. She allowed Shangguan Liuli to step on her sleeve. Through the open door, Yi Qing Luo could see everything that happened in the hall. He also recognized the woman on the ground with a single glance. Wasn't she the little Lolita who told Yi Qing Luo about Godless Island and Godless Three Devils at the academy's back door? Unexpectedly, she was thinking of asking the headmaster to find the little Lolita. He and the little Loli became roommates. This was fate. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed as she flipped over and got up from the bed. She slowly walked towards the little Loli. Shangguan Liuli's expression changed. What are you going to do? You're too noisy." Yi Qing Luo picked her ears and lazily lifted her eyelids. "It's very ear-piercing, I can't stand it." In other words, he was insulting Shangguan Liuli's voice. Not waiting for Shangguan Liuli to cry out in anger, Yi Qing Luo had already walked past her and stopped in front of the little Lolita. Yiqing Luo bent down and stretched out her hand to the little Lolita. Your name is Mo. The little Lolita nodded silently. A pair of dull eyes stared at Yiqing Luo blankly. She wanted to put her hand in Yiqing Luo's hand, but her sleeve was stepped on by Shangguan Liuli, and could not move. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways, the corner of her mouth raised into a shallow arc. Chapter 159. In this era, the fist was the hard truth. She had merely let Shangguan Liuli taste some bitterness. At this moment, Shangguan Liuli was filled with fear towards Yiqing Luo. She stomped her feet and angrily rebuked. You know who she is? She is a waste from the Earth Profound class. The one with the worst aptitude and foundation, and never goes to class. Shangguan Liuli felt extremely aggrieved. This woman didn't fawn on her, one of the 4 great families, but helped a waste instead. Was she sick in the head? Yiqing Luo didn't know what Shangguan Liuli was thinking, and wasn't interested to know. She chuckled and her eyes were filled with endless ridicule. So what? Waste? Earth Profound class? Yiqing Luo didn't believe that a person with that pair of cold and proud eyes would be a waste. Even now, Mo Yu's lifeless eyes were destined to not be an ordinary person. What's more, to be able to clearly mention the godless island and the 3 evils would be a waste. Shangguan Liuli was choked by Yiqing Luo's words, and turned to leave with a flushed face. Lowly trash is lowly trash. If the 2 of you get together, you'll be able to form a group of trash. Pa! Shangguan Liuli slammed the door with a loud bang. The entire dormitory seemed to be shaken. Why didn't you fight back? Yiqing Luo held her hand and pulled her up with a little force. Mo Yu tilted her head, and looked at Yiqing Luo with a pair of lifeless eyes without saying a word. Even the hand that held Yiqing Luo's hand was frozen there, and didn't withdraw. It was like a puppet without a soul. This thought stunned Yiqing Luo, and she subconsciously tightened her grip on Mo Yu's hand. The touch was soft, smooth, and the temperature was normal. 5 fingers clasped her wrist, and there was a pulse beating. She was 100% sure that Mo Yu was a person. But why did a person live like a puppet without any expression or soul? Yiqing Luo frowned slightly, and let go of Mo Yu's hand. She didn't want to say, and Yiqing Luo naturally didn't bother to ask. It was until Yiqing Luo returned to her own room, and was about to close the door, when that little Lolita, who had been standing at the same spot in silence, slowly raised her head. Fighting back is troublesome. I'm tired. It was still the same childish voice, spitting out the words one by one. Because he found it troublesome and tiring, he obediently took the beating? This answer made Yiqing Luo really speechless. Then at the back door of the academy, why did you watch the show in the dark, and even lead me to change my target to the godless island? This time, Mo Yu answered quickly, that's the 3 evils of Wu. How do you prove it? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes. Mo Yu's face was expressionless, her eyes empty. Yiqing Luo couldn't use her ability to see through people's hearts on Mo Yu. Mo Yu blinked her eyes. Her delicate and adorable little face began to change slightly. Her delicate and thin eyebrows were knitted together. Her entire face was wrinkled, and a trace of hostility appeared between her brows. Her pink lips pouted as she muttered in a flustered and exasperated manner. Troublesome. How troublesome. So troublesome. She flicked her sleeves, and the 2 pink fur balls on her sleeves swayed. The black bell gave out a jingle-jingle sound. Immediately, Mo Yu went straight into the room next to Yiqing Luo's, and closed the door. Yiqing Luo touched her nose. This was the first time she met with a rebuff, since she came to this strange world. Chapter 160. Yiqing Luo rested in the dormitory for a few hours, until she heard the school's huge bell ringing. She rubbed her eyes and got up from the bed. Looking at the sky outside the window, it should be around 5 p.m. now. There was still half an hour before the freshmen's meeting. Yiqing Luo stretched herself, and Chi-Chi jumped off the bed. Its little body trembled as it raised its head and licked its lips. Hungry, speaking of which, I'm a little hungry too. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand towards Chi-Chi, and it leaped up. One person and one beast went out of the room. Mo Yu's room was still tightly shut. Yi Qing Luo couldn't sense her breath, and didn't know if she was in the room at this time. Shangguan Liuli still hadn't returned. The dormitory was quiet, and there was no sign of human activity. Yi Qing Luo sighed and opened the door. Just as she was about to go out, a delicate lady rushed towards her and collided with her. Chi-Chi was knocked flying and rolled on Yi Qing Luo's bed. It opened its mouth and smelled its master's warm scent. It closed its eyes and fell asleep again. Yi Qing Luo didn't notice it and looked at the lady who was knocked down. She was dressed in a long emerald green dress with unique hair tied up and a pretty face. The lady also wore a silk bracelet on her wrist and a pink belt with gold patterns on her waist. She looked extremely youthful and lively. Sorry. The lady quickly bowed down to apologize and squatted on the ground to pick up the scattered luggage. I'm the one who knocked into you. I should be the one apologizing. Yi Qing Luo hooked her lips and squatted down to pick up the luggage for the lady. Yi Qing Luo's principle was very simple. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. Just like this lady, her attitude was gentle. As the saying goes, don't hit a smiling face. Moreover, this was her roommate, someone who would be living together for a period of time in the future. Yi Qing Luo's expression softened a little. After picking up the luggage for the lady, she hugged the package and stuck out her tongue in embarrassment. Sorry to let you see such a joke. This is my room, and that room is also occupied. You can choose one of the other two. Yi Qing Luo pointed to the remaining 2 rooms. The lady walked towards the room opposite Yi Qing Luo and pushed the door open. Tossing the things onto the bed, a satisfied expression appeared on his face. Phew, the environment is really good. I finally arrived at the academy. I must have a feast tonight to make up for my exhaustion today. She opened her arms and twirled around. When he turned towards Yi Qing Luo, he then realized that there was someone else in the room. His movements immediately stiffened, and he awkwardly scratched his head as he smiled. I am sorry I embarrassed myself again. I'm used to being at home. It's okay. She's cute. Yi Qing Luo curled her lips and stretched out her hand. I'm Yi Qing Luo, your roommate. Let's take care of each other in future. She was indeed very cute, compared to those who looked gentle on the surface, but were actually cruel and merciless. Yi Qing Luo preferred someone like Shangguan Liuli, or this girl, someone who could see through one's thoughts. At the very least, there was no need to painstakingly plot against each other. My name is Lu Xiaoyu. The woman hurriedly stretched out her hand and shook hands with Yi Qing Luo. Finally, there was a normal person. Pack your luggage. I'll go out to find something to eat. Yi Qing Luo glanced at the messy things on the bed. Are you hungry? I have a lot of food here. Lu Xiaoyu rummaged through the pile of things on the bed and took out a tightly tied package. She sat on the bed and placed the package on her lap. Her fingers deftly untied the knot. It was a wooden box. After opening it, there were a total of 3 layers inside, and each layer was filled with exquisite pastries. Chapter 161. Lu Xiaoyu nibbled on the pastry and didn't forget to pass the wooden box to Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo was indeed hungry and didn't stand on ceremony. She took out a piece and nibbled on it. A strong red bean taste filled her mouth, leaving a fragrant aftertaste in her mouth. Delicious, right? Lu Xiaoyu raised her eyebrows proudly. Our chef is the best chef. I love these pastries the most. Yi Qing Luo nodded with a smile. The taste was indeed good. Do you know who our other 2 roommates are? Yi Qing Luo finished the pastries and wiped her hands. I'm owing you, Shangguan Liuli. Lu Xiaoyu put the wooden box on the bed and stood up suddenly. Shangguan Liuli is also in this dormitory? Yi Qing Luo nodded lightly. Then she was crying outside that someone bullied her. It was you? Lu Xiaoyu's eyes widened in disbelief. Crying? Bullied? Yi Qing Luo's eyes twitched. Shangguan Liuli really didn't care about her reputation at all? Crying outside. Was she afraid that others wouldn't know that the dignified Shangguan 5th Missy was bullied on the first day of school? If I'm not wrong, it should be me. Wow. Lu Xiaoyu held Yi Qing Luo's hand with both hands. Her dark eyes sparkled brightly. Qing Luo, you're amazing. Shangguan Liuli is a mystic profound 2nd grade. It is said that she has been allocated to the high profound class. You actually beat her. After shouting excitedly, Lu Xiaoyu's face sank. But you have to be careful. Shangguan Lu Li's third brother is in the high profound class and has gathered a group of his own forces in the Heavenly Academy. If you offend Shangguan Lu Li, her third brother will definitely find trouble with you. My principle is not to cause trouble, but also not to be afraid of trouble. Yiqing Luo smiled and let go of Lu Xiaoyu's hand. All right, I will settle Shangguan Lu Li's matter. You go and tidy up the room first. The freshman assembly is about to start. When it was time, the school bell rang. A burst of neat and loud voices spread from the school. Listening to the voices, there were about a dozen people, and they used their profound energy to spread their voices to every corner of the academy. Attention, new students! Attention, new students! Hurry and report to the academy's plaza. After the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, all the new students must arrive at the plaza. Otherwise, it will be a major demerit. The voice rang out more than 10 times before it stopped. Outside the door, the clamor of students could be heard as they swarmed towards the square. Yiqing Luo remembered the punishment for mistakes she had seen in the handbook. A student only had 3 major demerits and 5 minor demerits. Once a mistake exceeded the record, they would be fired. Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu packed up and arrived at the public square together. The two women, one cold and enchanting, the other elegant and charming, immediately attracted the attention of countless people. Although there were quite a number of beauties in the academy, but there weren't many stunning beauties like Yiqing Luo. Moreover, who would complain about having too many beauties? Yiqing Luo found a spot and pulled Lu Xiaoyu to a corner. The academy occupied a vast area, with a total of more than 50 halls. There was also a huge square, which was even bigger than the assessment square. It was divided into 3 sections: High Profound Class, Intermediate Class, and Earth Profound Class. There were all kinds of learning equipment, weapons, and so on. This was the place for students to train and exercise. Their freshman assembly was held in this square. The time it took to burn a stick of incense was soon up. Chapter 162. The freshman assembly was a traditional activity of the Heavenly Academy. It was also an opportunity for the students to get to know each other. Atop the platform of the plaza stood the 3 sovereign teachers who had participated in the ability test. Guiyu stood at the corner of the high platform, squinting his eyes, searching for Yiqing Luo's position in the crowd. When he saw Yiqing Luo, his old eyes widened and waved excitedly at her. As a master on the high platform, every move of his was watched by countless eyes. This action of Guiyu was naturally noticed by many. They couldn't help but look towards the direction where Guiyu waved. Their line of sight was fixed on Yiqing Luo. Qing Luo, do you feel that? Everyone is looking at you. Lu Xiaoyu had never been in contact with such a big scene. She subconsciously held Yiqing Luo's arm and squeezed closer to her. Yiqing Luo's hand froze. She had never been in such close contact with others. Yiqing Luo was not used to it, but she didn't hate this feeling. It's not like we are shameful. Let them see if they want to see. Lu Xiaoyu was after all thin-skinned. Her eyes drooped down and her cheeks were stained with crimson. Yiqing Luo sighed and gently patted Lu Xiaoyu's hand. Raising her bewitching eyes, her expression sunk slightly. Her gaze transformed into a cold and sharp glint that pierced towards everyone who was looking over. The powerful aura made the freshmen shrink their necks. Cough, 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 the headmaster is here. The headmaster is here. Freshmen, please be quiet. The master on the stage eased the atmosphere. As soon as the voice fell, a white figure descended from the sky and landed steadily in the middle of the high platform. That was an old man. A set of white robe covered him tightly, revealing only a pair of sharp and astute eyes and white hair scattered on his shoulders. The body under the white robe seemed to have no bones. The white robe was hanging loosely in the air. The old man was holding an agate-colored walking stick in his hand. The agate jade on the top of the walking stick was flickering with electric brilliance, symbolizing his status, the heavenly headmaster. The moment he appeared, all the freshmen in the field immediately shifted their eyes to the high platform. Each of them revealed a look of fear, trembling as they stood straight and held their breath. This was authority. It was a majesty that made one's body react instinctively. The entire freshman area was silent, so quiet that even their own breathing could be heard clearly. Even the old students and the headmasters, who were standing outside of the meeting, were in awe. The heavenly dean coughed lightly. His voice was old and full of majesty. "I am the dean of this academy. Welcome to the Heavenly Academy." His voice paused, and he raised the walking stick in his hand. A square-shaped stone slab appeared above his head. "Everyone, take out your wooden tablet and stamp it on the protruding part of the stone slab." A teacher stepped forward and took the stone slab. Then he carried the stone slab and walked down the high platform. Starting from the first freshman, each of them took out the wooden token they received when they registered and imprinted it on the stone slab. Every time a wooden tablet was imprinted, the slate would emit a dazzling light. The students took turns to imprint the wooden token, and the heavenly dean continued on the high platform. "I don't care what your identity is outside the school, or what class you are assigned to. Once you enter the Heavenly Academy, you have to listen to the arrangements of the Heavenly Academy." Chapter 163. The freshman responded almost subconsciously, "Yes." The headmaster nodded in satisfaction and continued to speak. It was some general principles that everyone understood. After the long-winded speech, the other masters came over to continue. Teacher Wen's representative went up on stage and gave a long series of lectures on how to be a person. On the other hand, Wu Fuzi's speech was crude and easy to understand, but it was also filled with an awe-inspiring boldness. The entire event lasted for about 4 hours. The headmaster then announced the successful end of the event. Just like when he came, he leaped and his white robe flitted across the night sky and disappeared from everyone's sight in the blink of an eye. His speed was so fast that countless new students exclaimed in admiration, and they were filled with reverence for Dean Xian. In the crowd, Yi Qing Luo sneered disdainfully. "The headmaster is so awesome. Qing Luo, don't you think so?" Hearing Yi Qing Luo's sneer, Lu Xiaoyu retracted her gaze from the direction where the headmaster disappeared. Yi Qing Luo lightly hooked her lips and did not answer. She did not have the slightest bit of respect for this so-called heavenly dean. On the contrary, she felt that this headmaster was too good at pretending. Which of the headmasters of the academy was not highly respected and had a scholarly air about them? And when the headmaster appeared, he didn't take the easy way out and chose to descend from the sky, as if he was afraid that others didn't know his profound grade. And when he left, he even showed his hand. No matter how one looked at him, he didn't look like a respectable senior. After the crowd sent off the headmaster, the 3 masters stood on the high platform and said the closing remarks. Accompanied by the applause, the masters repeated, "All freshmen, don't forget to report to the square tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. for training and class allocation." In the end, the 4 masters removed the enchantment and dispersed. Yi Qing Luo held Lu Xiaoyu and stood still. After a while, Yi Fengyu trotted over with the luggage. The moment he saw Yi Qing Luo, a big smile appeared on his handsome face. "Sister, I have already moved into the dormitory and got along well with my roommates." Yi Qing Luo took the luggage and touched Yi Fengyu's head. "Don't trust others too easily. No one will treat you unconditionally for no reason. Be careful." Hearing this, Yi Fengyu was slightly startled, and the smile on his face froze. After a long while he nodded seriously. "Thank you for reminding me, big sister. I understand." While the siblings were still talking, some of the freshmen who had been standing there for 4 hours felt their legs go numb. Without any strength, they returned to their dormitories to rest. The bustling square gradually quietened down. "Qing Luo, bad news." Lu Xiaoyu suddenly tugged at Yi Qing Luo's sleeve. Up ahead, Shangguan Liuli was pulling a man dressed in the academy's uniform over. Behind the man were 5 or 6 other men. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed as she saw the badge on the man's chest, emitting a golden Gao word. "Hyperfound class students." Shangguan Liuli's third brother? Yi Qing Luo's brows rose, but there was no expression on her face. "Sister, what's going on?" Yi Fengyu felt that the atmosphere was strange. That group of people were obviously here for Yi Qing Luo. It was only the first day of school, And there were already people who wanted to deal with his sister? Yiqing Luo shook her head lightly and pulled Yi Fengyu and Lu Xiaoyu behind her. Coincidentally, Shangguan Liuli and the group of men had already arrived in front of Yiqing Luo. The appearance of the students from the high-level class immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding students. On one side were the senior students dressed in the academy's uniform, and on the other side were the freshmen dressed in ordinary clothes. From the looks of it, it was obvious that there were freshmen who were not afraid of death and went against the students from the high-level class. Chapter 164. Are you the roommate who shares a room with Lu Li? The third young master of the Shangguan family, Shangguan Fengyi stared at Yiqing Luo and asked with a smile. Although he was in the academy, Shangguan Fengyi had heard of Yiqing Luo's deeds. Originally he thought the rumors were too exaggerated. But after seeing her today, he believed the rumors. Whether we are roommates or not, it's not certain yet. Yiqing Luo replied with a smile. Shangguan Fengyi frowned. He was an old student of the academy and a student of the high profound class. No matter how capable Yiqing Luo was, she should at least give him some face. But Yiqing Luo was so arrogant. No wonder his arrogant sister was so angry that she cried and made a fuss. You want to drive me out of the dormitory? Shangguan Lu Li's face turned red with anger. She relied on her brother's support and was not afraid of Yiqing Luo. She walked out from behind Shangguan Fengyi and pointed at Yiqing Luo. The Heavenly Academy has no regulations on changing dormitory. Don't even think of driving me out. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Did I say I will drive you out of the dormitory? Shangguan Liuli was speechless. She was embarrassed and angry at the same time. She stomped her feet and tugged at Fengyi's sleeve. 7th Miss Yi. Since you did not want to drive Lu Li out, why did you speak ill of her in the dormitory, and even broke her hand? Shangguan Fengyi's face sunk slightly. He admitted that a woman like Yiqing Luo was enough to attract his attention. But this did not mean that the dignity of the Shangguan family was allowed to be trampled on by Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's attitude was obviously not putting the Shangguan family in her eyes. He purposely raised his voice so that the people around him could hear his words, which were very reasonable. This was also to explain to the people around that he was not bullying the freshmen, but to seek justice for his sister. Yiqing Luo chuckled, crossed her arms and looked at him with a faint smile. Then why don't you ask your precious sister? There are 4 people in the dormitory. Why did I specifically bully her? The surrounding people let out a hiss. They all agreed with Yiqing Luo's words. Many of the people around were young masters and young ladies of influential families. Naturally, they had heard of Shangguan Liuli's arrogance. If it wasn't for the provocation, who would be so bored as to quarrel with their roommates on the first day of school? One had to know that in the Heavenly Academy, once the dormitory was set, there would not be any changes until graduation. No matter what, you're the one who seriously injured Liuli. You should apologize. Shangguan Fengyi's face turned ashen when he heard the agreement from the surrounding students. He took a step back. Those 6 old students behind them surrounded Yiqing Luo and the others. Out of these 6 men, 4 were from the intermediate class, 1 was from the low class, and the last one hid his class. He must be a student from the low profound class. This action caused an uproar among the crowd. Are they going to start fighting at the slightest disagreement? One by one, they walked further away, afraid that they would be implicated in this disaster. Yi Fengyu's face darkened as he pulled Yiqing Luo's hand and stood in front of her. Sister, they are simply taking advantage of their power to bully others. They want you to apologize and protect the Shangguan family's reputation. Lu Xiaoyu shrunk behind Yiqing Luo. Her big bright eyes flashed as she stared at the 6 people surrounding her. Qing Luo, do you want to fight? Didn't you read the rules of the Heavenly Academy properly? Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a smile as she stared at Shangguan Fengyi and said word by word. Students who engage in private fights in the school will be given a major demerit. Chapter 165. There was a hint of surprise in Shangguan Fengyi's eyes. Yiqing Luo was just a freshman. How would she know the rules of the Heavenly Academy? Speaking of taking advantage of one's power to bully others, Yi Qing Luo gave a low laugh and put her arm over his shoulder. In the Heavenly Academy, who can compete with your power? Yi Fengyu was at a loss, not understanding the meaning of his sister's words. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a smile as her peripheral vision caught a glimpse of a white figure flashing past the crowd. She raised her voice and said, "According to third young master Shangguan, if fifth Miss Shangguan attacks me, I have to stand still and let her severely injure me?" Yi Qing Luo's voice paused as she sneered coldly. "I really can't agree with the Shangguan family's robber logic." When the crowd heard this, they couldn't help but roar with laughter. In front of everyone, Shangguan Fengyi was humiliated like this. His face turned red and green, and he clenched his fists so tightly that his veins were bulging. The Academy's rules did indeed state that private fights were not allowed within the Academy. The 6 men were only putting on an act. None of them dared to make a move. They had really belittled Yi Qing Luo. With just a few words, she had actually dragged the Shangguan clan into this. If the people around them were laughing at him, or Shangguan Liuli, it would be fine. Unfortunately, under Yi Qing Luo's lead, all of them were looking at the Shangguan family as a joke. Shangguan Fengyi could not take this lying down. "Third brother. Look at her. She doesn't even put our Shangguan family in her eyes." Shangguan Liuli pouted and shook Shangguan Fengyi's arm. Ever since she was young, she had always been a flower in a greenhouse. Her family had always held her in the palm of their hands and cared for her as she grew up. He had never suffered any grievances. Even if she caused trouble outside, as long as she mentioned the Shangguan clan, no one would dare to say anything bad about her. This was the first time in Shangguan Liuli's life that she had met someone who wasn't afraid of her Shangguan family. "Shut up." Shangguan Fengyi scolded her sternly. This spoiled, willful, big-breasted, brainless sister of his really gave him a headache. At this moment, Shangguan Liuli still had to use the name of the Shangguan clan. He was not afraid of a godlike opponent, but he was afraid of a pig-like teammate. Shangguan Liuli was definitely a pig-like teammate. No matter how much Shangguan Fengyi doted on his sister, for a man, the face of the family was naturally more important than his sister. He raised his hand and slapped Shangguan Liuli's face. Shangguan Liuli was so stunned that she even forgot to cry. She covered half of her face in a daze and looked at Shangguan Fengyi in disbelief. After a long while, tears the size of beans gushed out of her eyes. She pointed at Shangguan Fengyi, her whole body trembling. "You hit me. Third brother. I will tell father." After saying that, she covered her face and ran away, crying bitterly. After witnessing the dog-eat-dog drama, Yi Qing Luo raised her brows as her lips curled into a mocking smile. "Move aside." His gaze slowly swept across the 6 men surrounding him. A chill ran down his spine, from the soles of his feet to his head. That gaze seemed to be able to take their lives at any moment. When they heard Yi Qing Luo's cold and enchanting voice, their legs subconsciously opened up a path. Yi Qing Luo glanced at Shangguan Fengyi with ridicule, as she led Yi Fengyu and Lu Xiaoyu out of their encirclement, and walked towards the direction of the dormitory without turning back. "Stop right there." Chapter 166. I'm being overbearing? Yi Qing Luo snorted coldly, her charming eyes flashed. "Let the students be the judge. When was I being overbearing?" She changed the topic, her pink lips raised lightly. "Moreover, if it wasn't for the Shangguan 5th Miss who insisted on using the Shangguan family to suppress me, why would I mention them?" These words were extremely sarcastic. Who was Yi Qing Luo? The young matriarch of Three Springs sect, the future matriarch. Even though the current Three Springs sect was gradually falling behind in the hands of Yi Tianquang, but no one could shake the position of one of the 4 major sects in the Nirvana realm. A mere cultivator's family was nothing in Yi Qing Luo's eyes. Shangguan Liuli was simply a clown in front of Yi Qing Luo. The onlookers looked at Shangguan Fengyi with even more ridicule. Shangguan Fengyi's face turned ashen and gloomy. In the Heavenly Academy, everything starts from zero. The affairs of us students have nothing to do with the family. I hope 7th Miss can distinguish this clearly. You'd better say this to the Shangguan 5th Mississippi. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes. She was puzzled. These people with eyes on the top of their heads, did they not understand human language? That's right, in the Heavenly Academy, all students are equal. Suddenly, a vigorous and powerful voice came from the crowd. An old man, with his hands behind his back, walked over in a sloppy manner. A head of white hair, messily tied into a ball, a white master's robe hanging loosely on his body. Ask you. He looked like a crazy old man. But in the academy, I have the backing of the Yi siblings. I am the force behind them. Who else could this crazy but arrogant old man be other than Old Man Guiyu? Master, Yi Fengyu called out joyfully upon seeing Old Man Guiyu. It was obvious that Old Man Guiyu had met him and accepted him as his disciple after Yi Fengyu entered the academy. Yiqing Luo's brows softened. The smile on the corner of her mouth also added some gentleness. It seemed that she need not worry about Yi Fengyu in the future. With Old Man Guiyu's care, Yi Fengyu would definitely be successful in the Heavenly Academy. Based on Old Man Guiyu's character, Yiqing Luo was not afraid that Yi Fengyu would be bullied by others. Even without her, Old Man Guiyu would strike first. Master Guiyu. Yiqing Luo greeted him. Hearing the way Yiqing Luo addressed him, Old Man Guiyu's face lit up with joy as he strode over. Luo lass, leave this to me. Bring you back to the dormitory first. Master Guiyu. Shangguan Fengyi looked at Guiyu with an ugly expression. As the young master of the Shangguan family, and having stayed in the Heavenly Academy for several years, he was naturally aware of Old Man Guiyu's identity. If Old Man Guiyu intervened in this matter, he would have to swallow this matter into his stomach. My disciple, the Luo girl that I have my eyes on, you dare to stop me? High-profound class students can do whatever they want in the academy? Old Man Guiyu turned to Shangguan Fengyi, and his face turned cold. Shangguan Fengyi suppressed his anger, lowered his head, and replied respectfully. Student doesn't dare. Student just wants to help my sister. Old Man Guiyu squinted his eyes and pointed at Shangguan Fengyi arrogantly, not leaving any face for him. The person that I have my eyes on, I know very well what kind of character she has. You have to see if you have the capital to slander my person in front of me. These words caused Shangguan Fengyi to be unable to spit out a single word. Chapter 167. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up into a smile as she put the luggage on Yi Fengyu's shoulder. Let's go. Help me tidy up the room. But Master Yi Fengyu held the luggage and glanced at the direction of Old Man Guiyu. Master was helping them out of trouble. If they just left like that, wouldn't it be too heartless? Fool. Yiqing Luo knocked on Yi Fengyu's head. What have you been learning in the Yi family for the past 10 years? Why are you so stupid? Yi Fengyu looked at his sister blankly, not understanding the meaning of her words. Master Guiyu, I'll leave this to you. We have training tomorrow morning. We'll go back to the dormitory first. Yiqing Luo shouted at Old Man Guiyu's back. Old Man Guiyu waved his hand and motioned for them to leave. Yiqing Luo pulled Yi Fengyu and Lu Xiaoyu and turned to leave. The surrounding crowd spontaneously made way for them. After a while, the three of them arrived at the female dormitory area. Yi Fengyu was blocked by the guards outside the area. Yiqing Luo pulled over the luggage on his shoulder and patted his head. You just go back to the dormitory, don't bother your master. Master Yi Fengyu looked troubled. Shangguan Fengyi didn't speak for a long time. Obviously he doesn't want to have any conflict with us. But for the sake of the family's reputation, he needs a way out. It's the first day of school, we don't need to make things too big. Since Master Guiyu is here, this way out is under his feet. If we were still here, he would naturally be embarrassed and would continue to pester us. Yiqing Luo sighed softly and explained patiently. The siblings had lost their mother since they were young. Yi Tianquang never cared about them. Although Yi Fengyu studied in an ordinary school, the things taught by those masters were all dead logic. No one had taught him how to conduct himself in the world. Yi Fengyu nodded in realization. So the power that sister mentioned is referring to Master's power? Master Guiyu's status in the school is very high. If you follow him, you will definitely not suffer. If he's willing to teach you, I'm sure you'll have a qualitative leap in your cultivation before long. Yiqing Luo's hand slid from her brother's head to his ear and pinched it fiercely. As a man, if you want to protect sister, then learn well from teacher Guiyu. Don't always think that sister will help you when you run into trouble. Everything depends on yourself, understand? Yi Fengyu covered his ears in pain, and repeatedly responded. Go back and have a good rest. Don't embarrass me in tomorrow's training. Yiqing Luo released his ear. Seeing that his ears had turned red, she rubbed them, her heart aching for him. The siblings exchanged a few more words of concern before sending Yi Fengyu off. After returning to the dormitory, the entire dormitory was silent. Mo Yu's room was still quiet. It seemed like he didn't see Mo Yu at the freshman competition either. Shangguan Luli wasn't in the dorm either. Qing Luo, Shangguan Luli is famous for being pampered and unruly. Even if we temporarily reconcile tonight, I'm afraid third young master Shangguan will not let you off easily. Lu Xiaoyu followed closely behind Yiqing Luo into her room, her eyes filled with worry. It's all right, don't worry. Yiqing Luo placed her luggage on the bed and began to pack. In the luggage were some of Yiqing Luo's daily necessities and 2 clean and thin bedding. Chapter 168. With Shangguan Fangyi's status and talent, it was destined that he would not be a nobody in the Heavenly Academy. What's more, to be able to grow up in the Shangguan family, and even successfully enter the Heavenly Academy, one would naturally have a lot of schemes. Shangguan Fangyi had been teaching in the Heavenly Academy for at least 5 years. In the academy, he had naturally formed a wave of forces that belonged to him. If he were to secretly take action on Yiqing Luo, there was no way to defend against it. Lu Xiaoyu's face was filled with worry, but when she saw Yiqing Luo's expressionless face, calmly laying out the bedsheets, her heart became more anxious. Qing Luo, if he wants to make a move on me secretly, there's no use worrying about it. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she smiled indifferently. Go to sleep. Tomorrow morning we have to go to the public square for training. Lu Xiaoyu still wanted to say something, but Yiqing Luo continued. If you don't take a good rest, the assessment's overall score will be dragged down during training. If you are allocated to the low profound class, it will be very troublesome if you want to be promoted. Well, I won't. In short, it's better to be safe than sorry. If there's anything you need help with, feel free to look for me. I'm not afraid of offending them. Lu Xiaoyu patted Yiqing Luo's shoulder with a firm gaze. Yiqing Luo's smile gradually deepened. It felt great to be able to make good friends on the first day of school. Sending Lu Xiaoyu back to her room with her eyes, Yiqing Luo closed the door and fell onto the bed. Closing his eyes, he prepared to extract his divine sense and enter the azure dew bracelet to cultivate his profound energy. Suddenly, she remembered something and sat up abruptly. Chichi. No wonder he felt like something was missing. Yiqing Luo's consciousness probed into the beast pet space, but she didn't find Chi-Chi. Before the freshman competition, Chi-Chi was resting with her in the room. When she bumped into Lu Xiaoyu, Chi-Chi was still on her shoulder. She immediately got off the bed and called out Chi-Chi's name in her heart. But there was no response at all. Damn it! Yiqing Luo clenched her fists tightly as her brows creased tightly. His heart was filled with guilt towards Chi-Chi. She did not even know when Chi-Chi had left her shoulder. She could not even find Chi-Chi now. Ever since she contracted Mu Chi-Chi, she did not care much about Mu Chi-Chi. Yiqing Luo gathered her long skirt and pushed open the tightly shut window, trying to sneak around the academy to find out where Chi-Chi was. There were many experts in the Heavenly Academy, and she was worried that Chi-Chi would be mistaken as an ordinary pet beast by other students or teachers and captured. As soon as she opened the window, a gust of cold wind blew into her face, causing her black hair to scatter. Yiqing Luo turned her head and squinted her eyes as her hair fell on her eyelashes. Suddenly her body stiffened. Her slender fingers brushed aside her hair, which had been messed up by the wind, and she stared at the pitch-black night sky. The wind brought a familiar scent of sandalwood. As it seeped into her nose, her restless heart inexplicably calmed down. It's him. Mo Xian arrived. Just as this thought flashed through his mind, A strong and powerful arm wrapped around his waist. Her back was pressed against a hot, broad chest. The man's chin rested on her shoulder. His mellow and mesmerizing voice sounded beside her ear. Aluo, do you want to climb the window? His fresh and elegant sandalwood scent enveloped her completely. The man's warmth also covered her whole body. And she did not resist such an intimate action. There was no rejection at all. This man was really amazing. Chapter 169. What are you doing here? Yiqing Luo's fingers curled into a wisp of his black hair, twining around her fingers. Dmo Xian's thin lips hooked up slightly, whispering, I missed you, so I came to see you. Sneaking into the Heavenly Academy in the middle of the night, and touching the female dormitory. If the guards saw you, you will be regarded as a rapist. Yiqing Luo tugged at his long hair, raised her head, and looked at him playfully. But when she raised her head, she was met with a pair of peach blossom eyes. When they looked at each other, there seemed to be an electric current. Her body and mind suddenly went numb. Her heart was beating wildly. Dmo Xian's brows were full of laziness. His 5 fingers lightly lifted her chin. Plucking is a flower. I wonder if Aluo is willing to let me pluck you? Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red. These words, why did it sound like he was expressing his feelings to her? Don't speak, it means you agree. Dmo Xian's lips hooked up. The hand on her chin suddenly buckled her body, along with the strength of the man's fingertips, moved closer to the man. Immediately, that peerless face, enlarged in her pupils. Warm lips, pasted on her lips. Originally it was just a simple touch. Yiqing Luo reacted and subconsciously stepped back. But the man's arm increased the strength. The big palm fell on the back of her head, forcefully deepening the kiss. He invaded her territory, occupying all her sweetness. Yiqing Luo's breathing was rapid. Her mind was blank. The strength of her body seemed to be drained by Dmo Xian. Her whole body was numb. She had no consciousness to resist. Being hugged by him, being touched by him, she was used to it. It was nothing. But why was it that even kisses, she was used to it? She shouldn't be towards Dmo Xian. This thought made Yiqing Luo quiver. The whole person immediately regained her senses. Woo! Woo! Yiqing Luo's charming eyes revealed anger, raised her fist, struggling to pound on Dmo Xian's chest. But Dmo Xian seemed to deliberately go against her. The more she struggled, the fiercer he kissed, as if he wanted to kiss away all her reason and swallow her into his stomach. It was until the man's jet-black eyes turned deep black, before he released Yiqing Luo's lips. Facing Yiqing Luo's angry and embarrassed expression, Dmo Xian was like a cat that had stolen a fish. His lips curled into a satisfied smile. Looks like I picked the right flower. Dmo Xian gave a low laugh as his fingers caressed his lips, seemingly wanting to continue. The taste is not bad. His actions, his words, made Yiqing Luo feel even more ashamed and indignant. She raised her arm and was about to slap him. Her speed was fast, but Dmo Xian's speed was even faster. Just as he made his move, he felt a grip on his wrist. The man's large palm held her tightly, and then pulled her into his embrace. Yiqing Luo's face bumped into Dmo Xian's chest. The fresh and elegant smell of sandalwood was getting thicker, as though it was going to make Yiqing Luo faint. Emperor! Ink! Mystic! Just as Yiqing Luo was about to lash out at Dmo Xian, he immediately changed the topic. Luo, I'm here to return your things. You! Yiqing Luo gritted her teeth in anger. Damn it! This man was definitely her nemesis, wasn't he? Once she met him, she would definitely be at a disadvantage. He didn't play the cards according to common sense. Sure enough, it was a world where the bigger fist was the hard truth. She couldn't beat Dmo Xian in a fight, couldn't scold Dmo Xian. Even her sarcastic remarks could be ignored by Dmo Xian. Chapter 170. Ow ow ow, the shrill cry of a pet beast came from behind him. This sound made Yiqing Luo's heart tremble. She didn't have the mood to criticize Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo used both her hands and feet to push Dmo Xian away. The moment she turned around, she saw a white fluffy ball standing behind her. Snow-white fur without any impurities. A pair of dark eyes were glowing with a watery luster, as if it was acting coquettishly. Wasn't it the missing Chi-Chi? Yi-Ching Luo opened her arms to it. Her eyes were filled with joy. Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi's tiger eyes were sparkling. Its little legs kicked and scuttled into Yi-Ching Luo's arms. Yi-Ching Luo picked it up and rubbed her little face on its furry head as her lips curled into an elegant arc. Mo Xian leaned on one side. His hands crossed over his chest. The cold moonlight spilled in from the window, plated that handsome face with a layer of dazzling silver edge. Mo Xian's pair of sparkling crystal peach blossom eyes squinted slightly, outlining a long and narrow demonic arc. His thin lips curled up slightly, his eyes locked deeply on Yi-Ching Luo. He smiled at Chi-Chi, smiling till his eyes were curved. That face that usually looked cold and arrogant and glamorous, was actually exceptionally gentle. His eyes couldn't help but become gentle. A pair of warm jade eyes gazed at Yi-Ching Luo. Outside the window, Wind, who was hiding in the dark, almost fell down from the branch when he saw this scene. Was this still the cold and ruthless overlord in his heart? Mo Xian smiled faintly. He was looking at Yi-Ching Luo tenderly, when he saw Yi-Ching Luo's pink lips, imprinted on Chi-Chi's forehead. His brows suddenly trembled. Mo Xian strode forward, stretched out his hand and pulled Chi-Chi out from Yi-Ching Luo's arms, holding its neck. His expression was ugly. Are you male or female? Yi-Ching Luo was just about to scold him for being crazy again, when she heard Mo Xian's question. The corners of her mouth twitched. Damn. What does male or female have to do with you? Yi-Ching Luo stretched out her hand to snatch. Mo Xian turned around, and she pounced on empty air. The man lifted Chi-Chi, and locked eyes with it. At this moment, that jet-black peach blossom eyes. Where was there any glimmer, when he looked at Yi-Ching Luo earlier? Chi-Chi's hair stood up, and under Mo Xian's threatening glare, it tucked its tail between its legs and whimpered twice. Speak. Chi-Chi wagged her tail. Awuh. It was one of the 4 sacred beasts, the white tiger. Of course it was a male tiger. Male. Mo Xian's eyes narrowed as an eerie chill arose. Rescind the contract. Mo Xian, you're sick. Yi-Ching Luo snappily hooked onto Mo Xian's waist, and snatched Chi-Chi back with one hand. Whether my companion is male or female has nothing to do with you. After Chi-Chi was snatched into her hands, Yi-Ching Luo was about to let go of Mo Xian when the man suddenly tightened his arms and pulled her into his embrace. A Luo threw himself at you, and you still want to run? Mo Xian raised his brows slightly. His slender fingers easily hooked onto Chi-Chi from Yi-Ching Luo's hand. With a casual toss, Chi-Chi tumbled a few rounds in the air and fell onto the bed. The small body immediately burrowed into the mattress, only revealing a small tail. A sacred beast was actually frightened by Mo Xian, and became so obedient. Mo Xian was really deserving of the Nirvana legend. Yi-Ching Luo's mouth couldn't help twitching. Are you done? Chapter 171. Yi-Ching Luo slapped the back of his hand fiercely. Why did you bring my Chi-Chi out? Mo Xian didn't evade, and let Yi-Ching Luo slap him. That slap was very forceful. Even Chi-Chi, who was curled up in the quilt, peeked out its little head, and looked at them with twinkling eyes. However, the man's expression didn't change. Instead, he bent down, and his thin lips were almost on Yi-Ching Luo's neck. His hot breath sprayed on her skin bit by bit. I picked it up casually. It has your scent on it. Picked up. Was her Chi-Chi so easy to pick up? Yi-Ching Luo squinted her eyes and looked at Chi-Chi. You were really picked up by him? Chi-Chi blinked and nodded its head. A Luo doesn't believe me? Mo Xian turned her face and made her look at him. The man's face was full of resentment as he cupped Yi-Ching Luo's face with both hands. A Luo, do you think that I have ulterior motives towards this male tiger? Yi-Ching Luo's eyes twitched. Was this really the legendary overlord? Moreover, he was too obsessed with Chi-Chi's gender? You speak as if your 9-tailed fox is not a female. Yi-Ching Luo rolled her eyes and pulled away the man's hand that was caressing her face. Nope. Then that's it, your fox is a female. Yiqing Luo's words stopped abruptly as her eyes widened. What the hell? Such a flirtatious nine-tailed fox. Was it not a female? In her mind, a picture suddenly came up. A seductive man dressed in a white velvet robe with coquettish eyes winking at Dmo, simply too beautiful. So beautiful that Yiqing Luo couldn't bear to think about it anymore. Your taste is quite heavy. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as she laughed dryly. All right, since you have sent Chi-Chi back, go do whatever you need to do. I need to rest. After Dmo Xian's teasing, Yiqing Luo believed his words. After all, Chi-Chi would not lie to her. She yawned and walked towards the bed. Just as he took a step forward, his waist suddenly tightened, and his body suddenly became light. When she came back to her senses, she was already half in the man's arms and lying on the bed. The man's black hair spilled over the bed like clouds and smoke. His purple robe was like a blossoming mandala, adding a touch of demonic charm to his appearance. He turned sideways, with one hand under Yiqing Luo's head, and the other around her waist. Yiqing Luo's entire face was buried in his chest. His sandalwood scent filled his nostrils. You. Go to sleep. Dmo Xian's thin lips curled into a slight arc as he shut his eyes tightly. I'm sleepy too. Go to sleep if you're tired. What are you trying to do by snatching my bed? Yiqing Luo roared in her heart. Her hands and feet struggled, trying to push the man away. But Dmo Xian's body was like a huge lock, trapping her, and she was unable to move at all. His arms moved up slightly, and gently covered the back of her head. His magnetic low husky voice was like a lullaby in her ears. Be good, don't make a fuss, go to sleep. His big palm, through the black hair, exuded a scorching heat. It was warm and made her feel at ease. This was a feeling that Yiqing Luo had never felt since her past life. While she was in a daze, the shallow breathing sound in her ears gradually calmed down. Had he fallen asleep? Yiqing Luo moved a little, and sensed no other changes in Dmo Xian's breath. He might really be sleepy. Yiqing Luo's body stiffened and no longer moved. Perhaps this embrace was too warm, and made her feel at ease. Or perhaps Yiqing Luo was also sleepy. After a while, she fell into a deep sleep. Chapter 172. This time, Yiqing Luo slept exceptionally sweetly. When she was in the hidden family, Yiqing Luo had developed the habit of being vigilant at all times. Even in her sleep, the slightest sound could wake her up. In particular, her strong perception was too sharp. She had never tasted the feeling of sleeping soundly. This time, Yiqing Luo actually woke up after the academy's bell rang several times. Until Lu Xiaoyu came in to urge her to get up. She then slowly opened her eyes. Dmo Xian was long gone. Her hand touched the side of her body. It was icy cold. He should have left for a period of time. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with astonishment as she sat on the bed in a daze. She had never slept so comfortably. She didn't even know when Dmo Xian left. Slept until. She didn't even know when Lu Xiaoyu entered her room. Her slender white palm, inch by inch, moved to her heart, her 5 fingers clutching the collar of her chest tightly. What drug did Dmo Xian give her? It actually made her change her habits for many years unknowingly. He was really her nemesis. The academy's bell rang again. This was the last reminder bell for the gathering in the square. Yiqing Luo immediately got up, dressed herself up with the fastest speed, changed into a set of light clothes, and gathered with Lu Xiaoyu at the square. This time was neither too early nor too late. The square was also considered quiet. Other than this batch of freshmen, there was a batch of students in the high profound class area, and a few students in the intermediate profound class area, undergoing morning training. In front of the freshmen, there were already 2 training instructors dressed in tight martial uniforms, with a big drill word printed on their backs. Their faces were cold, expressionless, and full of anger and majesty. Just by standing there, their imposing manner had already suppressed this group of freshmen. 400 to 500 people lined up, under the call of the 2 training instructors. Dear freshmen, we are the instructors in charge of the freshmen's morning training. The 2 instructors called out. The instructor on the left had a cold face, his eyes were cold. My surname is he. Although the instructor on the right also had a majestic aura, the corner of his mouth hooked up with a slight smile, coupled with the contrast of instructor he. It seemed easier to get along. My surname is Chu. Just call me Instructor Chu. Hello, Instructor he, Instructor Chu. The freshman immediately stood up straight and shouted in unison. When training ends, it will be time for you to be divided into classes. This time's training will also be integrated into the overall results of your assessment. The final result will be the standard for your class placement. Instructor Chu smiled and explained today's training. Each of you has a piece of paper in your hands. After you are divided into classes, you can take it to the Faculty Affairs office to collect your uniform. From tomorrow onwards, you have to wear the academy uniform when you come to the plaza for training. Tomorrow? Do you still have to wake up so early tomorrow? An extremely low voice complained. I'd rather sleep in the dormitory than listen to your nagging. Although his voice was low, it could still be heard clearly in such a silent situation. All the students turned their gazes towards the direction of the grumbling. Although these words were what they were thinking. But, roasting in front of the instructor, did he not want to stay in the academy anymore? Everyone wanted to see who this incredibly stupid person was. Students in the 5th row of the 2nd row, step out. Instructor he's voice was cold as he shouted. But after a long time no one stepped out. On the contrary, the students who were called out were still looking left and right, as if trying to find out who the instructor was calling. She only reacted when the person beside her pushed her. Me? You? What right do you have to ask me to step out? She suddenly blushed and bit her red lips. Chapter 173. Based on what? Instructor Ho's eyes were cold, and his face showed a sarcastic smile. He walked straight to Shangguan Liuli, stretched out his hand, and easily lifted her up. How dare you touch me? I am the 5th Missy of the Shangguan family. Shangguan Liuli was so angry that her face turned red, and struggled to slap the instructor's hand. Instructor Ho's hand was as tough as a stone. No matter how Shangguan Liuli pulled, it didn't budge at all. On the other hand, her exquisite hair and her gorgeous robe were already in a mess due to the struggle. When Instructor Ho threw her to the ground, Shangguan Liuli looked like a crazy woman. Her image was ruined. Before Shangguan Liuli could cry out, Instructor Ho had already walked in front of her and bent down slightly. His cold voice was extremely dignified. Based on the fact that I am your instructor, based on the fact that you have entered the Heavenly Academy, if you don't want to learn, then get lost. Wah! A sharp cry burst out from Shangguan Liuli's mouth. She covered her face, lying on the ground and crying bitterly. Her mouth kept on cursing. Yiqing Luo heard her own name, and suddenly felt speechless. Damn. She was shot even though she was lying down. This girl's princess syndrome was probably in the late stage. Shut up. Instructor Ho shouted impatiently. Shangguan Liuli had never been shouted at like this before. When she was easily lifted up by Instructor Ho, she had no strength to resist, and had an instinctive sense of fear towards Instructor Ho. At this time when she heard Instructor Ho's stern shout, her mouth immediately flattened, and sobbed a few times, not daring to make a sound, and looked at Instructor Ho timidly. Either return to the team, or get lost now. Shangguan Liuli bit her red lips, wiped her tears and moved back to the team. Why did everyone have to bully her? She was bullied by Yiqing Luo yesterday, and didn't even return to the dormitory. She could only stay outside with Shangguan Fangyi for a night. Shangguan Fangyi had slapped her, and was worried that she would really complain to the Shangguan family head. So he had no choice but to accompany her. Now, Shangguan Liuli was so sleepy that she was dozing off, and was bullied by the instructor. She wanted to throw a tantrum, and go back to complain to her father. But, no matter how stupid Shangguan Liuli was, she was still very clear about the internal strife in her family. Her profound heart, jade and talent were the reasons why she had been doted on since she was young. After entering the Heavenly Academy, her status in the Shangguan family would rise by a few levels. Now he's being chased back to the Shangguan family by the instructor? Then her many years of hard work would all be wasted. They would also become the laughing stock of the Shangguan family. staying in the Heavenly Academy. With third brother's help, it would only be a matter of minutes to take revenge. Instructor Ho sneered when he saw her lowering her head obediently. His gaze swept across the freshman and said in a cold tone, "The Heavenly Academy is not short of students with outstanding qualifications, nor students with great power and influence. Don't even think of using the same tricks you used outside in the academy. The reason why the Heavenly Academy is hailed as the best academy is because of the Heavenly Academy's strength." The freshman nodded in agreement. With an example of killing the chicken to warn the monkeys, these freshmen who were originally suppressed by Instructor Ho's imposing manner and did not dare to speak, even their breathing became more cautious. Well, what should be said has been said by Instructor Ho, although the words are not pleasant to hear. But every sentence is from the bottom of his heart. If the freshmen want to study in the Heavenly Academy for a long time, then remember what Instructor Ho said. Instructor Chu's mouth hooked up into a faint smile. His cold and stiff face became slightly gentle. Chapter 174. The purpose of your coming to the Heavenly Academy, is it to show off to others that you are able to get into the Heavenly Academy, or is it to become stronger, to win glory for your family for the mainland? This question was extremely incisive. It could be said that more than 70% of the freshmen present were trying their best to get into the Heavenly Academy because of its reputation. To be able to enter the Heavenly Academy, even if it was in the low class, was a symbol of status. In the future, when you walk outside the academy and show off your identity as a student of the Heavenly Academy, you would be admired by everyone. This was the power of the Heavenly Academy's reputation. Just like how everyone's expression changed when they heard the words Overlord. It was the same logic. Therefore, when Instructor Chu asked the question, none of the freshmen answered. Yiqing Luo didn't speak either. She still understood the principle of shooting the bird that sticks out. Before she had enough strength, it was better to keep a low profile. On the day of the ability assessment, she had already been in the limelight with DMO Xian's escort. As the saying goes, there's always someone better than you out there. Her high profile would only invite some unnecessary trouble. I think you already have the answer in your heart. Instructor Chu said indifferently after a long silence. He crossed his arms in front of his chest, and his lips curled up into a mocking smile. Whether it's to show off to others, or to raise my profound rank, or to make myself stronger, there's only one starting point, is to learn. If you come to the Heavenly Academy and learn nothing, will others laugh at you for being mediocre, or will they laugh at the Heavenly Academy for not knowing how to teach? Sounds of people sucking in cold breaths could be heard in the square. Instructor Chu's words woke everyone up from their dreams. Yiqing Luo's lips raised slightly. She was very interested in the teaching methods of these two instructors. These two were definitely brothers who had been partners for many years. One was cold and domineering, the other convinced with reason. With such a combination, there were very few freshmen who could escape from their control. These students only thought that once they were admitted into the Heavenly Academy, it would represent infinite glory and a symbol of status. But they had never thought that after entering the Heavenly Academy, if they stagnated and were unable to advance to the profound grade, in the eyes of the world, it would never be said that the Heavenly Academy with the best school did not know how to teach. It would only say, in the Heavenly Academy, which was full of talents, their aptitude seemed extremely mediocre. It was such a good starting point for them to speed up their growth, but there were no results. It was simply a waste. At that time, all the brilliance would turn into a shadow and cover all the light. Do you want to become stronger? The freshmen were still in a state of shock when they suddenly heard Instructor Chu's explosive roar and were shocked. Yes, he replied in a scattered manner. Louder. Yes. Louder. Yes. Do you want to let the light of being admitted into the Heavenly Academy shine brighter? Yes. Good. Now run 5 laps around the square. All right. After hundreds of people answered in unison, they finally realized what was going on. 5 laps. Are you kidding me? The plaza was so huge that one could not see the end of it at a glance. Even if they were on the inside, circling one round would be fatal, not to mention 5 rounds. First row, start running. Second row, follow up. Instructor Chu did not seem to notice the resentment in the freshman's eyes, and directly shouted out the slogan. 5 laps is a bit too much, instructor. Can you just run 1 lap? Just 1 lap. This early in the morning, after running 1 lap, I won't have the energy to do anything for the rest of the day. Instructor, you must be joking with us, right? Chapter 175. Just as the crowd were whining and complaining incessantly, Yiqing Luo had already taken the lead and started running. She estimated that running 1 round in the inner line of the square was about 2 kilometers, and 5 rounds would be 10 kilometers. For ordinary people, no one could run all the way. But these things, in her previous life, when Yiqing Luo was trained as the head of the hidden family, not to mention 10 kilometers, even if it was 20 kilometers, she had to run nonstop. This could train a person's physical strength, endurance, and mental power. A lot of training was based on running. Hundreds of freshmen saw Yiqing Luo spontaneously running, and all of their faces turned ugly. If the students collectively protested, the instructors might reduce the number of laps, because no one listened to the command. They didn't expect Yiqing Luo to take the initiative to run. Then Lu Xiaoyu also followed. The 2 instructors' sight fell on Yiqing Luo. They had been in the academy for such a long time, and had always been the freshman instructors. So naturally, they had a set of ability to judge people. From the moment Yiqing Luo stood among the freshmen, the 2 of them had already noticed this girl. From the beginning to the end, there was no hint of impatience on her face. Or perhaps no expression. Unlike the other freshmen, although they didn't say anything, but there was some dissatisfaction towards the instructors on the surface. Looking at her proper running posture, uniform footsteps, and breathing, the admiration in the 2 instructors' eyes was even more obvious. Shangguan Luli saw all these, especially when she saw the instructors actually admired Yiqing Luo. A sense of imbalance surged in her heart. She clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. Wasn't it just running? Who didn't know how to do it? She had made the instructors unhappy earlier. Now she would pull the instructor's impression of her back. Shangguan Luli took a deep breath, and with a burst of strength, she quickly rushed over. In a short while, she had already reached the front of Yiqing Luo. When she overtook Yiqing Luo, she didn't forget to throw her a provocative look, and immediately left Yiqing Luo far behind. Qing Luo, do you want to chase after her? Lu Xiaoyu followed beside Yiqing Luo, maintaining the same speed as her. Looking at Shangguan Luli's arrogant look, she revealed a look of disdain. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. Once you start running, you can't stop after 5 laps. Let her show off now, later on she will suffer. I suddenly feel like you're very black-bellied. Lu Xiaoyu rolled her eyes and instantly understood the meaning of Yiqing Luo's words. Then wouldn't I be in trouble 5 laps? It would take my life. Run slowly. The instructor only said 5 laps, and didn't set a time limit. Yiqing Luo glanced at Lu Xiaoyu. She believed that Lu Xiaoyu definitely had the ability to finish the 5 laps with her. Lu Xiaoyu's running posture was as standard as hers, and she adjusted her breathing very well. She also knew how to use profound qi to relieve the fatigue in her legs. Although it would be very difficult for them to complete 5 laps, they would definitely be able to complete it. That's right. Let's run first. When those people start running, and we're done, we can watch them. Lu Xiaoyu nodded with a smile. Then he reached out to touch his stomach. If I had known this would happen, I would have secretly brought some pastries, and hid them in my clothes. If I had something to eat, I would definitely be more energetic now. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. 1 ran away, 2 ran away, 3 ran away. Following that, several freshmen lined up one by one and started running. After running 1 lap, Shangguan Luli, who initially left Yiqing Luo half a lap behind, obviously couldn't hold on any longer. She ran with all her might, and towards the end, her legs were getting more and more tired. Even lifting up was extremely strenuous. But unfortunately she couldn't stop. There were too many pairs of eyes staring at her. If she stopped now, others might ridicule her. Chapter 176. Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change. Her face wasn't red and she wasn't out of breath. He easily overtook Shangguan Liuli, who was already exhausted. When a gust of fragrant wind passed by, Shangguan Liuli panted heavily, her face flushed and stared at Yiqing Luo. She couldn't swallow the anger in her heart and couldn't spit it out. It was suffocating in her chest. She wanted to speed up and overtake Yiqing Luo again to teach her a lesson, but Shangguan Liuli felt as if there was 1,000 catty boulder pressing on her legs. She couldn't lift it at all. In particular, Shangguan Liuli was still wearing the same dress when she came to the school yesterday, gorgeous and cumbersome. After running one round, she was drenched in sweat. Her messy hair stuck to her face and neck, and her dress was too heavy. Shangguan Liuli took a deep breath and gritted her teeth. Her unyielding spirit was aroused by Yiqing Luo. Shangguan Liuli clenched her fist and was about to take a step to chase after Yiqing Luo. But just as she tried to lift her foot, a force suddenly hit her from behind. Shangguan Liuli immediately saw stars and staggered and fell to the ground. Lu Xiaoyu's charming laughter came into her ears. "Oh, Shangguan student, I'm so sorry. I was too tired and didn't notice you stopped. Do you want me to help you up?" A slender white hand stretched out in front of her. "You obviously did it on purpose." Shangguan Liuli was furious. "Pa!" She shook off Lu Xiaoyu's hand. "You are in cahoots with her. You are in cahoots to bully me." I really didn't mean it." Lu Xiaoyu covered the back of her hand, which was red from the slap, and looked at the instructor with a wronged look. Instructor Ho's face was sullen. The iron rod in his hand stabbed the ground fiercely. "Continue to run. Who dares to stop before 5 laps are completed? Report to the low profound class now." Lu Xiaoyu looked frightened. Her eyes were filled with grievance as she looked at Shangguan Liuli, bit her lips and turned to chase after Yiqing Luo. Shangguan Liuli lay on the ground and cried out loud. Beside her, the freshmen ran past her one by one. Instructor Ho narrowed his eyes and shouted coldly, "That new student, if you don't want to run, then get out here. Don't block the other student's path." When the freshmen heard this, they could not help but burst into laughter. They were exhausted from all the running, and having a good show to watch could at least refresh their spirits. "Run, not running." Shangguan Liuli lay on the ground, feeling conflicted. She didn't have the strength to run, and she didn't have the means to get first place and win back the instructor's impression. If she didn't run, she would be assigned to the low profound class. At that time, wouldn't those people at home who wanted to see her make a fool of herself be able to make a fuss about it? Before entering the Heavenly Academy, she had already vowed in front of her father that she would definitely enter the high profound class together with her third brother. Thinking about how she would not be loved by her family in the future, Shangguan Liuli was filled with unwillingness. Biting her lower lip, she stood up and continued running. Yiqing Luo deliberately jogged slowly, waiting for Lu Xiaoyu to catch up with her. There was no trace of grievance on Lu Xiaoyu's face at this time. She snorted, "I can't stand people who are so arrogant without strength. You still want me to be careful? Aren't you afraid that she will bear a grudge against you for targeting her so openly? What am I afraid of? I, Lu Xiaoyu, am not afraid of anything other than having nothing to eat." Lu Xiaoyu proudly raised her head, revealing a smug smile. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up, her heart warmed. Chapter 177. By the second lap, quite a number of people had chosen to give up and fell to the ground, gasping for air. There were still more than 300 people persisting in the inner circle of the square. The two leaders in front were still expressionless. Those 300 students who were still persisting stared at Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu with bloodshot eyes. They were roaring in their hearts. Where did these two perverts come from? Couldn't they just happily be freshmen together? If it wasn't for the sweat on their faces and soaked clothes, everyone would have suspected that they were cheating. They were not even panting after running for so long. By the third lap, more than half of the students had left. There were more than 100 people left in the field. Lu Xiaoyu was also left behind. Her face was slightly flushed, and she was panting. Obviously, her physical strength could no longer support her to move forward at a constant speed. Don't worry about me, you run first. I will stop myself when I can't do it anymore. Lu Xiaoyu's breathing was extremely heavy. Her legs had already slowed down as she spoke. Yiqing Luo nodded slightly, quickly adjusted her breathing, and began to speed up. When everyone saw Yiqing Luo speeding up, they all felt like dying. Damn, she was definitely a pervert. Was she a horse in her past life? Lu Xiaoyu's eyes revealed a strange look as she stared at Yiqing Luo's back in a daze. Could it be that Yiqing Luo had not used her full strength? Was it to match her speed? The corners of Lu Xiaoyu's mouth curled up a little, and her bright eyes were also tinged with a smile. It seemed that this trip to the Heavenly Academy was not in vain. By the fourth lap, there were only 20 to 30 people left in the field. There were quite a number of people lying on the ground, half dead and unable to get up. The instructors did not have the slightest bit of pity. They called 2 old students from the low class and carried them down. Yiqing Luo did not care how many students were following behind her. She just constantly adjusted her breathing. Her face was not red and she was not out of breath. It was just an illusion to others. In fact, by the fourth lap, Yiqing Luo's breathing had already become somewhat heavy. His legs also gradually became heavier, and he was no longer as nimble as before. However, there was no such word as give up in Yiqing Luo's dictionary. Since she had chosen to run, she would definitely finish the whole course. Yiqing Luo clenched her teeth and persevered as she continued forward. It was until the 5th round was completed when Yiqing Luo slowly came to a stop. The 2 instructors stood at the finish line. Their cold faces curled into an extremely shallow arc. Congratulations, you're great. This was the first person to complete 5 laps of the square since the start of the lesson. The students of low, intermediate and high profound classes, who were watching from the sidelines, were all amazed. One had to know. These 2 instructors had never praised anyone since they became instructors. One by one, they craned their necks to see who this freshman, who had run 5 laps, and was praised by the 2 cold-faced instructors was. Yiqing Luo was neither arrogant nor rash as she gave a decent smile. Thank you for the instructor's recognition. After saying that, she nodded politely and walked to the side of the square. She began to stretch her limbs and sat down to stretch and relax her muscles. The instructor's eyes were filled with admiration. This girl had quite a lot of common sense. At this time, the 30 people in the field could not hold on any longer on the 4th lap. Some fainted, and some retreated in defeat. Sparsely, there were only 3 people left, still staggering as they ran. One of them was Lu Xiaoyu. She was already drenched in sweat. Her footsteps were heavy and her whole body was swaying. But she insisted on running. Chapter 178. These 3 people must be crazy. Do they really want to put their lives on the line? They don't want their lives, but we do. My overall score in the ability assessment is not bad. Even if I fail this run, I can at least get into the intermediate class. Even if I enter the high profound class, I still need to be alive. The freshmen who had fallen on the ground were all complaining. Humans were like this. Once they couldn't persevere, they would continue to say sour words, believing that their persistence was simply stupid. To put it bluntly, it was just an excuse for their cowardice. It was just to make him feel more at ease when he was a coward. Lu Xiaoyu's body was already on the verge of collapsing. She was at the front. Her legs were like lead weights, step by step forward. Fortunately, Yiqing Luo reminded them that they were dressed in black today. Even if they were sweating profusely, it wouldn't reveal the color of their inner clothes. But the other female students were miserable. She was drenched in sweat, and her thin muslin clothes clung to her curvaceous figure. Of course, everyone was tired at this time, and didn't have the mood to care about these. Xiaoyu, come on, just a few more steps and we'll be there. Yiqing Luo stopped her leg stretching action, and jogged slowly towards the square. Although she was still a little tired after stretching her muscles, but it wasn't as tiring as before, after running 5 laps. She came to Lu Xiaoyu's side and smiled slightly. If you successfully run 5 laps, I'll treat you to roast chicken in the cafeteria tonight. Perhaps it was the word roast chicken that made Lu Xiaoyu's eyes lit up. Or perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo ran to her side after running 5 laps and continued to accompany her for another half lap. Lu Xiaoyu's exhausted and sweaty face also showed a trace of determination. One cheered in her ear, the other ran with all her might. Finally, they reached the end of the 5th lap at the same time. Lu Xiaoyu couldn't even stand steadily. Yiqing Luo supported her to stand for about half an instance's time before she let go of Lu Xiaoyu and let her do the muscle-stretching action. The second freshman to successfully run 5 laps. This batch of freshmen was really eye-catching. The 2 instructors' hearts swelled up, and the students' hearts were boiling. Immediately after, thunderous applause resounded throughout the square. These 2 new students were absolutely worthy of this applause. Lying on the ground, Shangguan Liuli's eyes were filled with ruthless hatred as she stood among the freshmen who were unable to move. She was surrounded by a few of her good friends from outside the academy. They were all exhausted, but they still had to serve Shangguan Liuli. 5th Miss, don't be angry. These 2 people are not to be trifled with. I will never swallow this down. Shangguan Liuli's eyes were vicious, like a sharp knife, cutting Yiqing Luo. Why was it that Yiqing Luo could complete 5 laps but she couldn't? If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo's provocation, forcing her to use all her strength first, she would definitely be able to run 5 laps. Now the glory of these applause also belonged to her. The more he thought about it, the darker the darkness in his heart grew. My roast chicken. Roast chicken still counts. Lu Xiaoyu rested for a while and walked towards Yiqing Luo. As expected of a foodie, the first thing he asked was food. Yiqing Luo smiled. Of course, tonight please. I suddenly feel that all the hard work today is worth it. Lu Xiaoyu made a greedy look and licked her lips. Chapter 179. There was a silence in the square. Just a little bit more, and the 2 of them actually collapsed. If they woke up, wouldn't they be so angry that they vomited blood? Look, not only did they not complete the running task, they almost lost half their lives. This was the first time they saw and heard of running until they fainted. Luckily we didn't insist on running. We have to fight with our lives. Just a little bit more. Fate makes fools of people. Fate makes fools of people. One by one, the freshmen shook their heads and sighed. Although there was a sense of pity in their words, it was obvious that they were gloating over their misfortune. Instructor Ho slowly walked to the position where the instructor stood. His face was cold and his voice was cold and ruthless. Return to the team. Those freshmen lying on the ground had not even caught their breath. Their legs were so heavy that they couldn't even stand straight. When they heard the instructors shout, one by one, they wailed and flopped on the ground, refusing to get up. I'll give you a count of 10. Those freshmen who have not returned to the team, don't come back in the future. Instructor Ho directly raised a finger and said coldly. 1. The freshman's face changed. They didn't dare to complain anymore, struggled to get up and staggered back to the team. After counting to 10, everyone obediently stood back in the team. Today's training ends here. I have seen your general strength. In the next month, I will customize the training method according to each of your strength. Instructor Ho put his hands behind his back and said majestically, today is just the beginning. There are more rigorous training waiting for you in the future. For a moment, the sound of the freshmen inhaling cold air came one after another. Today was already half their lives. Damn, there were more rigorous training? Wasn't that the rhythm of them dying on the training ground? Tomorrow at the same time, gather at the freshman training ground. Instructor Ho said faintly. His cold gaze swept past Yiqing Luo and paused for a moment. The students who passed today's training can report 2 hours later. Everyone looked at Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu with envious gazes. They were extremely resentful. Why didn't they insist on running the 5 laps? After Instructor Ho finished, he squinted at Instructor Chu. Instructor Chu understood and took a step forward, pointing to several directions in the crowd. Yu, He was referring to Yi-Qing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu. Both of you passed the training. Lu Xiaoyu excitedly hugged Yi-Qing Luo tightly as she cried out. Finally, we can enjoy our breakfast to our heart's content. Also, the two freshmen who were just a few steps away from completing 5 laps have passed the training. Once these words were spoken, some of the new students were immediately unconvinced. Why are they considered to have passed? A few steps away means a few steps away. If you haven't finished 5 laps, you haven't finished. Right. No matter if it was a step or a few steps, it was still a difference. It doesn't count as passing the training. The two instructors slightly frowned and scolded in a low voice with a sullen face. Am I the instructor or are you the instructor? If you have the strength, why are you still standing here feeling indignant? Why don't you have the strength to continue running? Even if they missed by half a lap, they still passed. If you have the ability to impress us, you can also pass the training. Seeing that the instructor was enraged, the freshman didn't dare to speak anymore. However, his face was filled with indignation. Although he said it, his heart refused to accept it. The instructors' faces were cold. Just as they were about to dismiss the group and let the freshmen go back, they heard a clear voice ring out. Chapter 180. Humans have unlimited potential. As long as you are willing to work hard and persevere, you will be able to stimulate it. Hard work may not necessarily lead to success, but if you don't work hard, you will never succeed. Everyone's sight followed the voice and looked over. Yi-Qing Luo was expressionless, her pink lips slightly pursed. Obviously her eyes were cold and emotionless, but her whole body exuded a terrifying aura. That pair of charming eyes, the corners of her eyes hooked into a narrow arc, enchanting yet covered by a layer of snow and frost. The reason why those two students can pass the training is because of their persistence and their hard work, which moved the instructor. Yi-Qing Luo's cold eyes swept through the crowd one by one, her lips hooked into a mocking smile. And all of you, other than being jealous of others and envious of others, have you ever persevered and worked hard to pass the training? His words caused the new students who were still clamoring to lower their heads in silence. Instructor Chu looked at Yi-Qing Luo. This girl had aroused his interest. When she said these words, her attitude was neither servile nor overbearing, not deliberately showing off, and everything was said in an orderly manner. No wonder old man Gui, you wanted to take her as his disciple the first time he saw this girl. He cleared his throat and gestured for everyone to focus on him again. Just as he was about to speak, a sharp and unwilling voice came from the crowd. Yi-Qing Luo, on what basis do you say that we did not work hard? We are so tired from running that we can't even lift our legs. And some students were carried to the medical hall. Don't tell me these people did not work hard. Shangguan Liuli couldn't stand Yi-Qing Luo showing off. In her eyes, Yi-Qing Luo's action today was deliberately going against her, deliberately trying to destroy her prestige. Yi-Qing Luo's lips twitched, with a faint smile. How can you be sure that those people really fainted? You. Shangguan Liuli's face was livid, pointing at Yi-Qing Luo. Her fingers were trembling. Enough. Do you think you are not tired enough? If you're not tired enough, run another 5 laps around the square. Instructor Ho furrowed his brows and scolded angrily. The freshman cried out in pain. Tired to death. Since you know you're tired, why haven't you dismissed yet? The group of freshmen was startled for a moment before they cried out in joy and swarmed away. They were eager to return to their dormitories and have a good rest. Yi-Qing Luo supported Lu Xiaoyu. Go rest first, I'll treat you to roast chicken tonight. The moment Lu Xiaoyu heard about roast duck, her beautiful eyes sparkled as she wrapped her arms around Yi-Qing Luo's slender waist. No rest, treat me to roast chicken now. As long as there's food, I'll be full of energy. Yi-Qing Luo laughed lightly and pulled her to the canteen. Lu Xiaoyu really deserved to be a real foodie. When the roast chicken was placed in front of her, her whole body was full of vitality, and her eyes were only filled with food. After eating 2 roast chickens and a large plate of meat, Lu Xiaoyu burped in satisfaction. One meal cost Yi-Qing Luo 50 silver coins. After the meal, Lu Xiaoyu had eaten too much, so Yiqing Luo accompanied her to walk one round around the courtyard and received 2 sets of uniform before returning to the dormitory. As soon as he entered the dormitory, he heard a woman's laughter coming from inside, as if she was saying something. Yiqing Luo pushed the door and entered. In the hall, around a mahogany square table, sat 5 gorgeously dressed women. As soon as they saw Yiqing Luo, the 5 of them looked over in unison. Chapter 181. As soon as she said this, the other 4 covered their mouths and chuckled. That's right, we are not as lucky as 7th Miss Yi. Another woman also spoke in a sarcastic tone. Shangguan Liuli reclined on a soft chair, no longer in a sorry state like she was in the square. 7th Miss Yi, if you have any trick to not be tired after running 5 laps, why don't you teach us? Yiqing Luo could hear the sarcasm from each of them. These people were probably suspecting that she and Lu Xiaoyu had cheated to be able to run 5 laps. What do you mean? You. Lu Xiaoyu frowned, rolled up her sleeves, pointed at the 5 women and scolded. Weren't you all shouting in the square that you couldn't run anymore and were exhausted? How do you still have the energy to gossip here? The 5 women's faces changed, slammed the table, and were about to get up to fight with Lu Xiaoyu. Yiqing Luo took Lu Xiaoyu's arm and walked into the room. The 5 women looked at each other and revealed a mocking smile. When Yiqing Luo walked into the room with Lu Xiaoyu and saw everything in the room, a trace of hostility flashed across her eyes. The thin quilt she laid yesterday had been replaced by a set of colorful quilts. The clean and tidy table was also filled with pearl flowers and rouge powder. There was even a rack set up at the side, on which there were many gorgeous dresses that were decorated with beautiful flowers. Obviously, her room had been occupied by others. Lu Xiaoyu's face sank and turned to Shangguan Liuli angrily. Don't go too far. I'm going too far. What can you do? Hit me if you have the ability. Shangguan Liuli stood up proudly and crossed her arms over her chest. This room, I want it. Shangguan Liuli was smart this time, taking advantage of the school's rules that students were not allowed to fight in private. No matter how angry Yiqing Luo was, she would never dare to hit her. Go check your room. Yiqing Luo pulled the angry Lu Xiaoyu back. Only then did Lu Xiaoyu react and rushed to her room. Sure enough, the things in her room were also replaced by Shangguan Liuli's things. Yiqing Luo saw Lu Xiaoyu's flushed face and glanced around the main hall. Her and Lu Xiaoyu's luggage were piled up in the corner behind the wooden cabinet. The square wooden box that Lu Xiaoyu had carefully kept with pastries had fallen to the ground. The lid had long disappeared, and a few pieces of pastries were scattered on the ground. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as a chilly ray shot out. She didn't want to waste time with Shangguan Liuli, but that did not mean that she would tolerate Shangguan Liuli's repeated provocations. Her room and Lu Xiaoyu's room were probably made by these 5 people. Return our things back. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a cold smile. Her voice was extremely calm. Put it back. Dream on. Shangguan Liuli slammed the table and stood up with her hands akimbo. Let me tell you, I will take whichever room I want. Don't think that you can do whatever you want in the Heavenly Academy just because you have the instructor's liking. Very good. Yiqing Luo laughed softly. Her laughter was extremely soft, but it was filled with an invisible pressure. She spread out her 5 fingers, and a red fan appeared between her fingers. One of the ladies saw that red fan and her face suddenly turned pale. That's the glower flame fan, it's her weapon. Yes, I've seen it during the ability assessment. This fan is very strange. Shangguan Liuli heard this, and the arrogance on her face could no longer be maintained. Chapter 182. Really? Yiqing Luo smiled faintly, her brows raised slightly. Her sweet but not coquettish face added a hint of coldness. That pair of charming eyes was suffused with a trace of bloodthirsty murderous intent. Shangguan Liuli, even outside the academy you the 5th Miss Shangguan, are nothing in front of me. Yiqing Luo took a straight step forward, as the corners of her lips maintained a sly smile, which didn't look like a smile. Shangguan Luli tensed up. She had suffered a loss in Yi Qing Luo's hands previously. She immediately stood up and stood behind the other 4 women. The 4 women were also frightened by Yi Qing Luo's aura, as they stood rooted to the ground, staring at her in a daze. It was until Yi Qing Luo approached that they let out a scream and dispersed. Shangguan Luli, didn't you say that this young matriarch doesn't dare to make a move? Why should I hide? Yi Qing Luo sneered. Shangguan Luli's breathing gradually quickened as her chest heaved up and down. She was used to being pampered, and had always been condescending. In Yi Qing Luo's hands, she had suffered a setback time and time again. She absolutely could not swallow this down. Now she had 4 helpers. There was no need to be afraid of Yi Qing Luo. Who would know that they had made a move on Yi Qing Luo after walking out of this dormitory? Shangguan Luli thought in this way, as she glanced at the few women scattered by the side. These women often conspired with Shangguan Luli outside the academy, and did a lot of evil things. But to them, it was just a prank. One look, and they immediately understood Shangguan Luli's meaning. The 4 women calmed down. There were 5 of them, and Shangguan Luli was a mystic profound cultivator. Yi Qing Luo was only 1 person, plus Lu Xiaoyu who looked like a waste. Afraid that they couldn't win? Yi Qing Luo, what are you so arrogant for? Do you really think that you are the young matriarch of 3 Springs sect? Your reputation in the West Continent is a waste. Shangguan Luli's eyes were sinister. Profound qi condensed in her palm, and suddenly pressed towards Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes. A burning feeling suddenly arose in her heart. Shangguan Luli's chest was surrounded by a red glow. A scarlet-black star pattern appeared beneath her feet, and 5 stars floated out. Mystic Profound Grade 5. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as her lips curled into a smirk of ridicule. Scarlet Heart Jade, Mystic Profound 5th Grade. No wonder Shangguan Lili was at the Mystic Profound rank 5. But her strength was so weak. Her Jade Heart's level was too low. It was impossible to completely release the power of the Mystic Profound Grade 5. Presumably, Shangguan Lioli's profound rank was rushed up with elixirs. As for Shangguan Lioli and the other 3 sisters, they only felt a powerful force enveloping them. An envious look appeared on his face, and he boldly stood on Shangguan Lioli's side. Seeing Shangguan Lioli's palm striking towards her, Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't change at all. Just as the palm wind was nearing her face, Yi Qing Luo suddenly stretched out her hand. Pa! A loud slap resounded through the entire dormitory. He saw Yi Qing Luo grabbing Shangguan Lioli's hand with one hand, while the other hand directly flung onto Shangguan Lioli's face. Yi Qing Luo had used quite a bit of strength in this slap. Shangguan Lioli's delicate little face was imprinted with a clear 5 fingerprint. I don't have the leisure to waste time with you. Either you tuck your tail between your legs when you see me next time, or I will hit you every time I see you. Chapter 183. The few ladies froze on the spot, and retracted their hands that were about to strike back stiffly. They were unable to calm down the turbulent waves in their hearts. What on earth was going on? Why was Yi Qing Luo able to avoid Shangguan Lioli's palm strike? Why was she able to grab Shangguan Lioli's hand so accurately? And that slap, how on earth did it land on Shangguan Lioli's face? According to the investigation, wasn't Yi Qing Luo a yellow profound 9th grade cultivator? How could she be so powerful? Go! Go! There are 5 of us. Are we afraid that we can't beat her? Shangguan Lioli spat out blood from the fall. She wiped the blood stains on her lips and stood up, shouting sternly, "Whoever can hurt her, after we leave the academy, I will reward you with 10 gold coins." 10 gold coins. The 4 ladies' eyes lit up with excitement. As the saying goes, money makes the world go round. Although these ladies were rich young ladies, but 10 gold coins, it would take several years of salary to save up. Upon hearing this, the 4 of them looked at each other, and rushed towards Yi Qing Luo at the same time. Qing Luo. Lu Xiaoyu frowned, and was about to rush up and join in the battle. You watch from the side. Yi Qing Luo glanced at Lu Xiaoyu and curled her lips. Immediately, she leaped into the midst of the 4. These 4 ladies were able to enter the Heavenly Academy, so they had some ability. Their reaction and adaptability were not bad. When they attacked from the left and right, Yiqing Luo suddenly squatted down. The feather fan in her hand flew and knocked on their elbows. A few cries of pain came from their mouths. Yiqing Luo stuck close to them closely as her arm lifted up slightly and mercilessly slammed against their elbows. Ah! The 4 ladies' faces turned pale in pain and cold sweat oozed out of their foreheads. One by one, they shrank back and couldn't even lift their hands. How would they dare to continue fighting with Yiqing Luo? You dare to hit us in the academy? I will tell the instructor. Shangguan Liuli trembled in fear. Yiqing Luo curled her lips and turned to look at Lu Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu, did I hit anyone? Lu Xiaoyu shook her head cooperatively and blinked innocently, with a wronged look. Did Qing Luo hit anyone? Why didn't I see it? Isn't it because 5th Miss Shangguan is jealous that we passed the training? So she occupies 3 rooms, and wants to drive us out of the dormitory? Yiqing Luo nodded her head with a smile as her vision turned towards the 4 young ladies. Did I hit you? The 4 women opened their mouths, but no words came out. Shangguan Liuli was so infuriated that her face flushed red, as she clutched her chest with one hand, and pointed at Yiqing Luo with the other. Don't you dare to deny it. The wounds on our bodies are the best proof. Weren't those injuries caused by you sisters accidentally sparring with one another? The smile on Yiqing Luo's face became increasingly sweet and harmless. What's more, the one who used profound qi to attack me was you, 5th Miss Shangguan. Shangguan Liuli didn't understand what he meant, but the women around her were all smart people, and they immediately understood. The reason why Yiqing Luo had not released any profound qi from the start till the end. Their profound ranks were all recorded on the wooden tablet. The wooden token could also sense the fluctuation of the xian qi they used. If this matter were to be reported to the instructor, the wooden sign would show that it was indeed them who did it. Damn it! Yiqing Luo was simply too black-bellied. She made them suffer, and they had to swallow it down. Don't tell me. You think what I said is wrong? Yiqing Luo smiled again, but her eyes became especially cold and severe. Chapter 184. You all. Shangguan Liuli's face was gloomy. She had not expected these sisters who were like biological sisters to actually side with Yiqing Luo at this moment. A wise man submits to circumstances. If 5th Miss Shangguan wants to tell the instructor about today's matter, I will naturally not haggle with you all if you all tell the instructor what you have seen. Yiqing Luo's lips curled slightly. Her charming eyes were filled with a devilish glint, covered with a layer of chilliness. Those few ladies hurriedly nodded their heads. They had never used their true feelings towards Shangguan Liuli. They had been fawning on her because of her identity. They had no intention to put themselves in danger because of Shangguan Liuli. Every man for himself will be destroyed by heaven and earth. What's more, Shangguan Liuli had tricked them to offend Yiqing Luo. But she had never mentioned that although Yiqing Luo was in the yellow profound 9th grade, but her ability was so powerful. And in the end, when Shangguan Liuli asked them to go up, she hid behind them. Seeing the 4 ladies being so obedient, Yiqing Luo nodded her head in satisfaction. Now, put my things and Xiaoyu's things back in the room properly. Put them back in the same place as they were before. Shangguan Liuli was so angry that her chest heaved up and down. This hurried breathing made her chest that was thrown out by Yiqing Luo even more painful. The cold sweat on her forehead rolled down one by one, as she fell onto the ground powerlessly. But those 4 ladies didn't even bother to look at Shangguan Liuli. One by one, they obediently picked up the things which were originally piled up in the corner, preparing to humiliate Yiqing Luo. These rich young ladies had never done any hard work at home. To make them tidy up the room, it was like a war. Shangguan Liuli's things were thrown out one by one, whereas Yiqing Luo led Lu Xiaoyu to sit leisurely on the chair chatting. Aren't you afraid that these people will really complain to the instructor? Lu Xiaoyu was curious how Yiqing Luo could be so confident. Yiqing Luo's lips curled. Without evidence, they wouldn't dare. Otherwise they would be seeking their own death. She pursued the principle of keeping a low profile, but it didn't mean that she would allow herself to be trampled on. She had only been in the academy for 2 days, but Shangguan Liuli had been looking for trouble with her. If she didn't intimidate Shangguan Liuli and the others now, she would have a hard time in the future. It would be better to solve it now. At least for a period of time in the future, she would be able to enjoy peace. Today was really satisfying. I passed the training, got the limelight, and even ate 2 big roast chickens. Now that I've seen such a good show, I have no regrets in life. Lu Xiaoyu hooked her arms around Yiqing Luo's neck and smiled with her eyes curved. Yiqing Luo stroked her head and glanced sideways at Shangguan Liuli, who was half kneeling on the ground with a face full of hatred, as a cold smile surfaced in her eyes. Life was the same. One had to be clear about who to be a good person in front of, and who to be a bad person in front of. Approximately half an hour later, the 4 ladies had rearranged Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu's room neatly. Some of the things that they had broken before, they did not hesitate to go to their dormitory and replace them with their own things. Both of their rooms had been tidied up cleanly. On the contrary, the whole hall was in a mess, and Shangguan Liuli's things were piled up everywhere. After the few of them tidied themselves up, they wiped off the sweat on their foreheads and stood in front of Yiqing Luo. Chapter 185. The 4 ladies nodded their heads obediently. After getting Yiqing Luo's permission, they left the dormitory one by one. No one was willing to stay here for a while longer. Looking at these people, from the initial arrogant sneer to the current servility, Yiqing Luo sighed deeply in her heart. This was indeed a strange world where the strong were respected. If the one standing here today was another person, there was a high possibility that he would be tamed by Shangguan Liuli. But now the ones who ran away with their tails between their legs were Shangguan Liuli and the rest. Because she was strong enough to contend against Shangguan Liuli and the rest. The bigger the fist was the hard truth. She had to become stronger in order to survive in this strange world for a longer period of time. Qing Luo, then what about her? Lu Xiaoyu pointed at Shangguan Liuli, who was still kneeling on the ground. Let her. Yiqing Luo glanced at her indifferently and shifted her gaze away. You must be exhausted today. Go back to your room and rest. I will call you at night. Lu Xiaoyu didn't reject. After running 5 rounds, even if she ate the roast chicken and was fully rejuvenated, the physical fatigue was still there. After the both of them returned to their room, Shangguan Liuli, who was sitting stiffly on the ground, blinked her eyes. After some time, she regained her senses. The whole room was in a mess, piled up with her things. Shangguan Liuli's breathing became hurried again. Covering her chest, there was a burst of pain followed by a wave. She twisted her head, looking at Yiqing Luo's tightly shut door. As she looked, her hands clenched into fists, blue veins popped out. Her eyes were fierce and filled with murderous intent. Absolutely. Would not let Yiqing Luo off so easily. Absolutely not. Perhaps it was the physical fatigue. Or perhaps it was in her sleep. She always felt a faintly discernible sandalwood scent lingering around her nose. Yiqing Luo's sleep was incomparably sweet. The moment she slept, it was already 7 p.m. It was Chi-Chi who used its tail to rub against Yiqing Luo's face, scratching her awake. Yiqing Luo opened her eyes, meeting with Chi-Chi's pair of pitch-black tiger eyes. She was slightly stunned, and suddenly remembered the smell she smelled in her dream. She quickly carried Chi-Chi and sat up straight. He looked around, but didn't see the person he was thinking of. He took a deep sniff of the air, but the elegant sandalwood scent was nowhere to be found. There was no sign of him. She remembered that in her dream, there seemed to be a pair of warm palms gently covering her face. His slender fingers brushed aside the bangs on her forehead. His warm lips pressed against her forehead. Yiqing Luo could even remember clearly that when he kissed her, the scent that seeped into her nose, and the warmth of his chest. But was all of this really just a dream? Yiqing Luo's eyelids drooped down slightly as her hand subconsciously caressed Chi-Chi's forehead. If she were to look at the copper mirror, she would discover that Her current expression showed how disappointed she was. Qing Luo, I'm coming in. Outside the door, a rhythmic knocking sound was heard, followed by Lu Xiaoyu's clear and bright voice. Yi Qing Luo's body shook violently as she quivered and regained her consciousness. She covered her cheeks with her hands, which were burning hot. She bit her pink lips tightly. She was extremely unfamiliar with her own reaction and felt ashamed. She actually dreamt of Dmo Xian. After waking up, she still wanted to see him? She must be crazy. It must be Dmo Xian, who had cast a curse on the profound jade heart in her body. Yi Qing Luo patted her face, trying hard to lower her temperature. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.